The story begins with a maid asking Milady if she would like to try some dessert. The girl answered that no, but she thought to herself that Luberia probably loved sweets, but not her. In fact, her real name is Yerin, an ordinary office worker in South Korea. Our heroine worked for a terrible company that didn't even pay for taxi expenses. As a result, the girl accumulated debts because of the director of the orphanage where she grew up. Her only hobby was buying discounted books. She had a really hard life, and it ended in cold, gloomy water. Yaren saw a child drowning in a frozen river. Without thinking for a second, our heroine rushed to his aid and jumped into the water. As a result, the girl saved the boy, but she herself was unable to swim to the surface and drowned. When a bright light hit her eyes, she couldn't understand what was happening, whether she had woken up in paradise, but it turned out that she had ended up in the very same story that she had recently read in her book. It was called The Rise of the Emperor. It is not a novel, but a story about the mental maturation of the main character and his conquest of an entire continent. Caesar subjugated every kingdom and founded an empire. The girl thought that absolute power would give him happiness, but she was deeply mistaken. After becoming emperor, Caesar lived his life in hopeless loneliness, and at the very end, he said that no matter how much you suffer, it is all meaningless. If he never found happiness, then what difference does it make whether he lived his life as an emperor or as a commoner? As soon as she remembers this, her eyes immediately become wet. She was lucky that she moved to Luberia, and not to the main character. Sol Kershane's role is to serve as a backdrop for another heroine, Armoria. Since she didn't appear in the novel that often, the details are unknown to our heroine. It took her a whole month to figure out where she ended up. You can't interfere anywhere. In such a crazy novel, any sudden movement will attract the attention of the main character. Maybe Caesar is a pity, but what does it matter to her, a background character? Especially now the girl needs to take care of her health and improve it. A month ago, her carriage was involved in an accident, and she lost consciousness on the spot. The impact was not strong, but due to the state of shock, Luberia could not wake up for a long time. Sol Kershane just happened to be in her body when she was supposed to come to her senses. Today there will be a meeting with the person who helped her during the accident. Even though it wasn't their fault, they still brought our heroine to the Duke's estate. Suddenly, a voice was heard saying that he wanted to come earlier, but he was told that she was not feeling well. The girl replied that everything was fine, because she owed him a lot. The guy had hair the color of fire, golden eyes that seemed capable of incinerating in an instant. Suddenly, the young man said that the Duke sang of her beauty every day, and indeed, he did not lie. Then the young man introduced himself and said that his name was Caesar Idan. The girl was taken aback by what the protagonist from the novella, over which she cried so often, was doing here. After this, our heroine froze, since there was no such scene in the book. In which chapter was there such a plot at all? If a young man has already become an emperor, then the best solution would be to slip away quietly. It won't be possible to go back, because she already tried, and thought that death could help her. But everyone just thought that she had gone crazy and chained her to bed. So you need to understand what part of the novella she is in. After thinking a little, she said that she greeted His Majesty, the brave lion and the red sun. Then she added that she did not expect at all that the emperor himself helped her. When there was a deathly silence, Luberia began to panic and think about why she even blurted that out. There was no need to look at her like that. After this, the guy made sure that everything was okay with her and said that it would be better to get straight to the point. He wanted to make her an offer. The young man would really like the girl to always be near him. The emperor is very worried about her, and the surest way to protect her is marriage. Out of surprise, the girl spat tea in his face. The Duke and the maid were completely horrified by what had happened, so they began to panic and urgently needed to bring a towel. While the man was shouting why she did it, the young man asked if this was her answer. Our heroine thought to herself that things were bad. His Majesty couldn't stand liquid on his face. I think that's what was said in the work. Caesar Iden looked flustered as water splashed on his face. Our Maria stood next to him, with a cup of tea in her hands, her flushed cheeks betraying her shame. But she still looked very cute. This scene is very similar to the one when the emperor fell in love with one of the heroines, but it should not be equated with the main one. The girl refuses to choose this plotline, where the character sacrifices himself to lift the curse, because in the end, there will only be death. So our heroine replied that, yes, this action was her answer to his question. The young man did not expect such a turn of events at all, so he simply looked at her silently. Solkershan thought to herself that, being the only daughter of the Duke, she would not allow herself to die. So let her just leave here, please. Suddenly, the guy said that he apologized for not informing the Duke of his arrival. He was interested in the man's daughter, because he praised her so much that he even called her Princess Scotty. The girl really turned out to be unusually sweet and beautiful. He has a simply magnificent daughter, so he will definitely visit her again. Returning to the carriage, the young man noted to himself that she should be next to him, since he could not let go of someone who knew about his future. A month ago, a guy asked for a detailed plan of the eastern part of the continent and received some nonsense. Suddenly, the carriage stopped, and he asked the coachman what was the matter. The servant replied that someone was blocking the passage. Seeing an unconscious girl on the street and a maid screaming near her, the guys noted that it seemed like something serious. The young man was indignant that this happened during a secret operation. Now he would have to deal with it. Having noticed His Majesty, the maid immediately greeted the brave lion and the red son Scotty. Caesar asked if they had caused any inconvenience and let them say from which family they were in order to resolve the misunderstanding. Hearing Solkershan, the emperor realized that the only daughter of the duke lay before him. Father said that she was beautiful. In society, she was often called Princess Scotty. If His Majesty saw her, his heart would stop. When he took her in his arms, he noted that she looked very tender and fragile. She even lost consciousness. Then, Caesar touched her head to check if she was injured. Suddenly, he began to see her memories, namely the knowledge from the book, the formation of the emperor, and in general, everything that happened to her in her past life. Rancelot asked where they were going. The guy replied that, considering their strength, it would be wise to go east. The knight replied that he would immediately make preparations, and 2 weeks later, the Aedan army was ready to conquer the east. Yeren thought to herself that this was very cool. The most interesting part was better left for tomorrow. Then, His Highness saw the situation with the drowning child, and how the girl ultimately died herself. The young man was shocked and abruptly pulled his hand away from her. Could these really have been her memories? It's hard to believe, but she seems to know about his past, and, most interestingly, about his future too. Therefore, he told the maid to show him the way to the estate, since he would carry her there himself. On the way, the guy thought that this was simply amazing. Maybe it was some kind of superpower. How did she know so much about him? It seemed that the girl fell into the water. Some time later, in his estate, the young man was wondering whether this meeting was accidental. Then a knight entered the room and reported that everything was fine with my lady. His Highness ignored this and asked when they were planning to leave for the east. When Rancelot replied that in 2 weeks, the emperor announced that he was canceling this plan. The assistant tried to object that if they did not do this, they would have to wait a whole year to go and conquer the east. His Highness replied that there was no need for this, since they would not go there and would not capture anyone. When asked why, wasn't this his dream? The guy muttered that, indeed, not long ago, this really was his dream, after which he gave the order to find out more about Milady Solkershan. Let her not think anything up, it's just curiosity and nothing more. The information that interests him the most is whether she has ever had a water-related disaster. These visions were most likely her memories. She is the protagonist of the novel, The Rise of the Emperor. Despite her attempts to resist fate, Luberia simply acts according to the plot. But he is not satisfied with this. He is not going to submit to fate. A week after the incident, the maid said that high society was going crazy. Everyone was trumpeting that the emperor was going to marry her. Other men simply had no chance. Our heroine muttered that, indeed, she had heard that the marriage was already predetermined, thanks to Marilda for telling her. The maid exclaimed that she was marrying the most desirable bachelor in the country. Where was her joy? Luberia thought to herself that as soon as she did this, her song would immediately be sung. Why can't she have plot armor? Since that day the emperor came with flowers, then with gifts, Marilda said that it was time to get up, since he would soon come again. Our heroine couldn't think of anything better than to simply pretend to still be asleep. Caesar said that he had to admit that she had a lot of courage. No one had ever ignored him so clearly. How long was she going to continue doing this? Then the young man added that a whole week had already passed, and had she still not changed her mind? After which he came very close to her and whispered in her ear that the girl did not at all look like she was sleeping. Our heroine immediately blushed and exclaimed that His Highness was even allowing himself to do this. But okay, the emperor managed to figure out her prank. The young man objected that she was thinking about the wrong thing. Did she really still not want to be with him? Solkershan replied that her opinion was unchanged. He was much more desirable than her, and he was in good health, so he would be able to find a better passion for himself. Caesar asked how she knew, how she could be sure that there was someone better than her. If she doesn't want to be an empress, then he's not forcing her. Perhaps he's simply the most suitable match for her. The girl said that if he wants to be with her so much, then why is he sure that it has to be marriage? Let him give her a little time. I noted to myself that he is so sweet. Even when he frowns, I would like to avoid inadvertently falling in love and sacrificing myself for him. Therefore, for the sake of her survival, our heroine must uproot these weeds of love. When asked why she was refusing him, the girl said that it was because His Majesty was not her type. She likes more masculine men, like his commander of the palace knights. The young man felt as if he had been struck by electricity, and he asked again, dumbfounded, "What?" Then he asked her if she thought he didn't fit into that category. Luberia replied that the emperor was too refined. The young man said that he had heard that she was weak and rarely left the estate. But when did she manage to see the commander of the palace knights? His Highness listened attentively to all her excuses, but still did not intend to give in. The next time the emperor wants to see her in good health, and he is absolutely not joking. Our heroine was disappointed that nothing worked out for her. Why is this happening to her at all? The Karshan family served as the emperor's personal guard for generations, and its members were always considered powerful swordsmen. Luberia inherited the blood of this dynasty, and the Sol particle of her family name was appropriated in the temple, her role being to balance Armeria. Our heroine stated that, although the training was successful, she still lacked stamina. Why are they so weak? Let them eat more. The young men muttered that their bodies could not stand it because they were simple people. The girl angrily asked if they thought she was a monster or something. The guy replied that Milady had inherited the blood of the Karshan family, so they were no match for her. When asked if he really thought she was that strong, the young man, with tears in his eyes, shouted for Luberia to look around. Noticing that there was a bunch of unconscious knights lying nearby, the girl realized that she had overdone it. She couldn't control herself again, but she just wanted to wave her sword. Superpowers are a real punishment. The blood of the Karshan dynasty is the most superpower born from the power of the sun. Why does Luberia have this, but not healing magic like the main character? Why did the author come up with the idea to create exactly these characters? It was because of him that the girl suffered so much. She realized this when she herself became Luberia. As a child, the girl could not control her power. Having heard that the boy's toy had been taken away, she asked nicely for it to be returned. But they only told her to get out of there. Although the little girl only wanted to teach a lesson, it turned out that the little one received very serious injuries. The girl was so shocked by this that from that moment on, she hid her power in every possible way and refused to leave the estate. In society, she became the personification of weakness, so no one even guessed about her true strength. However, it seems that His Highness has finally figured her out. What should we do now? On the way, our heroine saw girls from the knightly order in the distance. While Luberia was looking in their direction, a maid came up to her and said that she had already looked for her when she was going to have dinner. Then an idea came to her mind, so she exclaimed that Marilda had come just in time. Let her invite the emperor to lunch right now. After some time, our heroine greeted the brave lion and the red sun Scotty. The young man replied that her invitation had taken him by surprise. For her sake, he had canceled all his meetings and rushed over. It seemed that the girl was in good health today. Sol Karshan replied that it was an honor for her to hear these words, but she thought to herself that there was little sweetness on the table, so it was necessary to add some sweet words. The guy then asked if she had changed her mind, but Luberia replied that no, it had only been a day since their last conversation. But our heroine has come up with something. In case the emperor still wants to marry her, she can become his personal knight. The young man immediately became gloomy and asked again what she meant by deciding to joke about him. The girl immediately began to justify herself, saying that she wouldn't dare. Let her explain. There's no need to look at her like that. Caesar objected that, due to her poor health, she was not allowed to take on heavy loads, as she was going to become his knight. Our heroine explained that she comes from the powerful house of Karshan. Isn't it a piece of cake for her? If His Highness personally appoints her, then no one in Skadi will dare to object to him. She thought to herself that if she became a knight, perhaps she would one day end up in a war. Although, thanks to her family name, if that happened, she would be the last one to get there. Moreover, if he meets Armeria in the east, she will completely replace him, and then he will be able to leave the knights. When asked why she needed this, the girl replied that they would spend a lot of time together, being the emperor's knight. Perhaps over time, feelings for him would blossom in her heart. His Highness asked if he couldn't win her hand in the normal way. Luberia noted to herself that she was irritated by his straightforwardness. Therefore, she decided to appeal to pity and said that she was weak. Therefore, she would make a bad wife. Aiden replied that if this was her sincere desire, then he was not against knighthood. When our heroine happily asked if this was true, Caesar added that he had one condition. Then the young man stood up, approached her, and declared that she should become engaged to him. Solkarshan asked why. Because she fulfilled his request. When she becomes a knight, they will spend a lot of time together anyway. His Highness replied that it was not a question, it was his desire. He is the emperor. Does he really need a special reason? After which he asked when they would set a date for the ceremony. The girl muttered that in 3 months. The young man objected that this wouldn't work, but in a week it would be perfect. Our heroine exclaimed, "But what about preparing for the engagement? Why rush so much? It's better not to rush." The young man replied that there was no need to worry. He had very good servants, so the preparation would not take much time. Luberia noted to herself that he was using his power to put pressure on her. He had outplayed her. She really wanted to hit him on the head to make him come to his senses. Unexpectedly, the young man said that it was very impudent. It was the first time someone had threatened him like that. But the girl did not understand how he had guessed. I wonder why he liked her at all. Maybe there is some way to scare him off. Then she took the cake in her hands and said that it was enough to talk about the engagement. It was better to try something sweet, let him open his mouth. And if she doesn't want it, then she'll eat it herself. But she thought to herself that in the novella, the guy didn't like sugary girls, let love pass, and the tomatoes wither. But suddenly, the young man said that if she liked it so much, she could eat it whole. When he watches her, he understands why everyone around him calls her charming. Just the sight of her makes him forget about hunger. The girl did not understand what was happening, but she was not going to give up without a fight. Therefore, she replied that if that was the case, then perhaps she would remain a charmer for a while longer. Caesar said what a relief it was that Milady loved sweets, because she adored them too. He hoped that in the future their tea parties would be even more exciting. The guy was sure that the ceremony would go wonderfully. When His Highness left, our heroine immediately began to feel sick from the amount of sweets she had eaten. Why won't the emperor leave her alone? If he chooses her as his beloved, she will die. Then she burst into tears and rushed to embrace the maid, who was worried about why she suddenly felt so ill. After some time, the maid gave her a warm bath, which should help, and also asked the cook to prepare something light. If she is having a hard time, then Milady can always talk to her. Marilda is on her side. Luberia thanked her. When the woman left, Solkershan wondered why he had not gone to the east. Had she forgotten the content of the work? The girl remembers that during the last war with the Western Kingdom, the young man's heart froze because of a curse. It was then that the main character decided to sacrifice herself for the sake of her lover. Armeria gave him all the power of the sun to melt his frozen heart. The girl also has such power, but she absolutely did not want to die again. She did not like it at all, so she does not want to repeat it. Meanwhile, the emperor asked Ranslot whether he had ever seen the only daughter of Duke Karshan. After thinking for a moment, the young man replied that it was only when she lost consciousness near the carriage. That was the only time. His Highness wondered how she knew what a knight looked like. The assistant asked if she was still refusing him. He could not even imagine that someone could refuse the emperor. Caesar said that she said that he was not her type, and was not even going to think about marriage. And the girl also said that she liked Ranslot. The young man was surprised how this was possible, Maybe she was just trying to find a reason to refuse him. That's why she blurted out something like that. Aiden explained that she was a bit strange, didn't leave the house, avoided communication, and at the same time shamelessly talked about masculinity. The knight immediately replied that he swears that he doesn't know her. He heard that Luberia was a rather fragile lady. Did he really like her so much? The emperor replied that he thought she was pretending. The knight thought, what's surprising, usually, if someone annoys him, he immediately breaks off ties. But here he's been running after her for a month already. It is very doubtful that it is only about her unprecedented beauty. Perhaps he simply wants to strengthen his connection with the Duke in this way. But the man is faithful to him even without this. Suddenly, Caesar declared that the knight should not come to the engagement. The guy was indignant, that he was actually his personal guard. The young man replied that nothing would happen in one day. The assistant asked whether it was all because of my lady. His Highness muttered that if he already knew everything himself, then why ask? Let him just not come. And on the day of the ceremony, she will order the cook to prepare the sweetest dessert for her. The assistant said that he will make sure that they do not forget about it. The emperor noted to himself that she liked sweets, and that her mouth lied every time she opened it. The guy doesn't back down just because he doesn't want to dance to the tune of fate, but her actions amaze him more and more, so he eagerly awaits the engagement ceremony. A week later, the maid said, what a pity that everything was developing so quickly. Even the local nobility was not invited. Our heroine replied that there would be a lot of people anyway. The garden could not accommodate everyone. The maid exclaimed that the ducal garden should not be underestimated, after which she added that, on such a day, she wanted Luberia to shine brighter than all the others. After all, it is the young lady's engagement day, something that may happen once in a lifetime. How could she just give it to someone? The girl told her not to cry, because it was just a ceremony. She noted to herself that even if they got married, she would not leave the Duke's estate, so there was nothing to worry about. When our heroine went outside, she immediately heard the voice of the emperor, who stated that she was late, and whether she had even finished her preparations yet. Our heroine's jaw dropped at the sight of His Highness, so she simply stood there silently and looked at him. Caesar couldn't help but notice this, so he asked if he had managed to attract her attention. She seemed embarrassed. But didn't she say that the young man was not her type? Luberia covered her face with her hands and said that she did not look at him, but to herself she thought why he was so handsome. The young man asked if he looked more masculine now. Our heroine asked if he was joking, but the guy replied that he was more serious than ever. The girl snorted and said that he looked like a little animal, meaning that he still lacked a little masculinity. She thought to herself that she hoped that he was laughing at her because he liked her. She hardly believed it, but she still hoped for it. Otherwise, why would she have agreed to this engagement? The emperor asked if she was nervous. The girl replied that of course, since she was getting married for the first time. The guy replied that he did too, although they only need to smile and show off in front of the public, so why worry? When our heroine answered that she was not used to being the center of attention, the young man looked at her strangely, so she asked what was wrong. The emperor asked if he could take her hand. She was trembling like the last autumn leaf. It seemed that she was about to lose consciousness. Luberia recoiled and exclaimed that it was too early for them to hold hands. Caesar objected that they were engaged after all. Then he grabbed her hand anyway and said that they couldn't keep the guests waiting any longer. When they went outside, the voices of the guests began to be heard, that it seemed that he liked her, and the guys looked very good together. After this, the young man noted that she seemed to be not so nervous anymore, so she would go and chat with the guests. The girl replied that there was no need to look at her like that. Let her go wherever she wanted. Suddenly, a girl came up to her and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. She couldn't believe that Luberia was engaged and that she should accept her congratulations. Our heroine couldn't remember at all who she was. Maybe one of Solkershan's acquaintances. Such an open dress and a rather familiar face. The stranger continued, "Didn't they meet when they were younger? Her name is Caitlin." After hearing her name, Luberia remembered who she was. She has countless marriages to her credit. Dozens of men were left without money because of her. She even courted a duke. One day she was caught when a woman was abusing little Solkarshan, so she was thrown out of the palace. Now she acts as if they are close friends. Perhaps our heroine should feel like a victim. But this time, it won't be like that. After which, she stated that she thought that she had no reason to visit the estate. Were they really sending invitations to mistresses now? She thought that there should be noble gentry here. Caitlin laughed nervously and asked if she hadn't sent her the invitation. Luberia asked, since when they had been friends, for her to personally send her an invitation. The woman exclaimed that the girl probably didn't remember, but she had taken such good care of her when she was a baby. Our heroine began to get angry. What a shameless abomination stands before her. It's very annoying. Therefore, she suddenly ran up to the emperor, fell into his arms, and said that unpleasant memories had come over her. And that was why she felt ill. When she was very little, this grown woman slapped her with all her might. Caitlin immediately asked for forgiveness. Because she just wanted to greet my lady. They rarely see each other anyway because of her poor health. The young man stated that, as she could see, my lady was not feeling well now, so he asked her to leave here. His Highness asked if, since the girl did not want to hold hands, she decided that it would be better to hug or what. Our heroine immediately stepped back and began to repeat to herself that she had not pressed herself against him. That had not happened. Suddenly, Viscount Valian approached them and asked if everything was all right with the bride. Nothing could be more important than her well-being. Then they continued their conversation with the emperor, which they had not finished a little earlier. The girl decided to go and eat, because why should she go hungry on the day of her engagement? But something was bothering her, if I am not mistaken. Then in the original novel, it was precisely because of the Viscount that Caesar deeply regretted something. When exactly was this? Before or after returning from the East? Why does this stupid memory fail her at such important moments? Suddenly, everything around seemed to be on fire. Our heroine did not understand what was happening. Her head was just about to explode. After which I began to lose consciousness, thinking that it couldn't be. Would that very scene really happen? The Viscount asked Nadell why there was so little money this month. Had he really started doing charity work? The guy muttered that they simply had few sponsors this month. The man hissed, why does he hear nothing but excuses? What a fool he is, that he couldn't even find sponsors. Let him not forget that it was he who appointed him director of the shelter and did not let him die of hunger. The young man replied that this would not happen again. Valian thought to himself that he had grand plans to make money. It would be better to immediately stop all financial transactions with the shelter to avoid problems. A little later, he will publish evidence of Nadell's embezzlement of sponsors' money, and will be able to blackmail him with this. And if everything burns down, then there will be no evidence left at all, so there is no point in delaying. It is better to start tomorrow. When our heroine suddenly came to her senses, the maid exclaimed that she had finally woken up. Luberia asked why she was in bed. What was with the ceremony anyway? Marilda replied that it had already ended a long time ago. Milady had lost consciousness, so there was no point in continuing the celebration. His Majesty had been here all this time and was very worried about her. The girl said that she was very hungry. Could the maid bring her something? As she left, Luberia realized how she could have forgotten something so important. A series of fires connected with the Viscount. In the original novel, this happened after Caesar left for the East, when the defenses were weakened. If left as is, orphanages would burn all over Scotty, many children would die, and all because of this vile man. Why did the emperor meet her exactly when he was supposed to set out for the East? If they had not gotten engaged, he would have already been conquering other kingdoms. According to the plot, after a series of fires, the main character must calm Iden down, and as a result, they become very close. Hearing some kind of rumble in her bedroom, the knights and the maid immediately came running, exclaiming whether someone had broken into her. But they saw only a girl who was silently sitting near a table that was broken into pieces. Our heroine immediately noted to herself that the emperor even posted guards near the doors. How meticulous he was. Marilda brought her something to eat and said that if necessary, she could stay with her, but Luberia replied that it was not worth it. When leaving, the maid said that if she needed anything, she should call her right away. Sulkershan decided not to change history, but she cannot stand aside, knowing how many deaths it will bring. The girl will go to the shelter and see what can be done. May God at least this time allow her to live normally. People were shouting that the flames were spreading. How could they save the children locked there? Luberia saw a woman telling the Viscount to go home and rest. His help to the children was invaluable. The man asked how he could leave when the children's lives were at stake. Our heroine was infuriated by this disgusting acting. It was he who started the fire. He needed to be caught. But how did this happen in the novella? But from the memories that came to mind, only the intrigues of the emperor and his beloved came to mind. After which I heard that he was getting ready to leave, as he stated that he would leave the rescue of the remaining children to the professionals. Therefore, the girl decided to follow him. But after some time, the man suddenly stopped for some reason. Then suddenly and abruptly, the Viscount jumped up and ran as fast as he could. Sulkershan knew it would be exactly like this, so she persuaded herself not to run out of steam so quickly. In the end, she had to stop. Why didn't she listen to the maid who said that one day my lady would regret that she always sits at home? Did she really miss him? But suddenly, a male voice was heard from behind, asking why he was being followed. After which, he suddenly grabbed our heroine and pressed her against the wall. She pushed and screamed for him to let her go immediately. Valian said that let her tell him her name, and he will let her go, who she is anyway. Luberia thought to herself that she could break free if she wanted to, but she needed proof that he was the arsonist. After which, she asked why he ran away when he saw her. The man asked if she was joking, because she obviously knew something, didn't she? The man doesn't know where she got the information from, but she didn't come all this way for nothing. The Viscount hopes that he will not disappoint her, because he will send her to hell along with those children. Our heroine thought to herself, has he really gone completely crazy? Is this really a real dagger? Looking at her frightened face, Valian stated that she was scared, but let the silly girl blame only herself for this. Flexing her fists, the girl hissed that only he should be scared here. God sent her for him. After which, she approached him and punched him in the face with all her might, in front of the emperor, who appeared out of nowhere. The young man looked at her in surprise and asked what the princess was doing here. Our heroine froze in silence from surprise and wondered where his highness had come from. After which, she began to panic, that even if he didn't see anything, he clearly heard it. Maybe she should hit him too, so that he would forget everything. But Caesar grabbed her by the shoulders and asked what such a fragile girl was doing on the street in the middle of the night without an escort. Our heroine muttered that it was very noisy outside, and she saw smoke from the window. But what was the emperor doing here? The guy replied that he heard from his knights about the fire in the shelters, so he decided to figure it out on his own. But more importantly, why he met her here. And why are there wounds on her face? Let him not tremble. How can he hurt her? The girl answered that she was not afraid, because of course he would not harm his bride. The young man replied that he wouldn't hurt her, but he would definitely scold her for wandering around here alone in the middle of the night. And what if something happened to her? Then he began to rub the ointment into the scratch on her face and said that it might sting a little. The girl noted to herself that he was so good and said that she would not go out alone next time. But it was very unexpected for her to hear words of concern about such trifles from the future tyrant. Then the emperor looked at the beaten Viscount and asked who he was, because he seemed familiar. Luberia completely forgot about it and exclaimed that she was just passing by, and Valian was already lying there unconscious. What happened to him? Noticing the young man's distrustful look, Sulkershan realized that he didn't believe her. She herself wouldn't have believed such nonsense. The guy replied that it was too late, so he wouldn't ask any unnecessary questions, after which he threw his coat over her and said that it was chilly outside. Our heroine muttered, "Thank you very much," and added that she was going home. After moving some distance, Luberia wondered why he was following her. When she turned sharply towards him, Aiden asked if she was not going to go home alone. My lady replied that she was. Since she had gone out alone, she should return alone. The young man asked if he should not accompany her. The girl replied that because of the fire, everyone had gone out into the street, so there was no need for that, and she would go along the crowded streets. The emperor replied that since she insisted so much, then fine. Our heroine exclaimed that she would be so careful that no one would catch her. On the way, Sulkershan thought about how she had been in such a hurry to at least influence something, but she had been unable to save the children from the fire or reveal the true arsonist. If only she had been a little more sensible, because surely a lot of children died in that fire. She is very sorry that she couldn't help them. Let them forgive her for not coping. Meanwhile, the emperor brought in a man and told the knight that, although he looked unpresentable, He was exactly the one he thought of. It was the Viscount who started all these fires. The knight asked who painted his face like that. He then said that he had followed Nadel and found out that he was in collusion with Valian, and it seemed that the arson had been committed by him on his orders. They managed to evacuate the children, so no one was hurt. Although they were unable to prevent the arson, they were able to stop the spread of the fire. His Highness replied that it was a fine piece of work, and the boy asked how he had managed to recognize them as accomplices. They must have had an unshakable reputation in his eyes. Who would have thought that the Viscount was capable of such a thing? The young man thought for a moment and replied that he was just lucky. In fact, when Luberia lost consciousness at the engagement ceremony, he saw her memories again. Valian and Nadel meet. The orphanage is set on fire. The guy doesn't know how he got access to her memories, but is now sure that she knows the plot. If everything had gone according to the script, the Emperor would not have been able to learn about the impending catastrophe in time. Having captured the East, he would have sat on a bloody throne, unable to forgive himself. Caesar is grateful to Milady for opening his eyes. Then he told the knight to move towards the city, where he should find my lady, and let him secretly ensure that she got home safely. Also let him bring the guards here so that they can send the Viscount to prison. I thought to myself that the temple clearly had a reason to change the family name Luberia. The young man did not expect that she seemed so strong. He saw everything, including the moment of impact. Besides, she has no sense of self-preservation at all. Did she really want to solve this alone? She really surprised him. Dressed in rags, she made up some kind of fable. He will impatiently wait for the girl to reveal another of her secret sides to him. The next day, our heroine noted that her back hurt so much, as if she had been carrying bricks, running around, and fighting with some guy the day before. So it's not surprising. A maid immediately looked in on her and asked if she knew what had happened last night. It would be better for her to stay in the estate for the time being. The Viscount was embezzling sponsorship money, and Nadel was also involved in his scheme. Last night they committed arson to get rid of the accounting department, but they didn't have time to escape, as they were captured and taken to prison. Our heroine exclaimed that she simply couldn't believe it, but she wondered to herself whether they had really been caught. When the maid muttered that she had a strange reaction, the girl exclaimed that he was a real nasty thing, a toilet duck, because of the Viscount innocent children died. Marilda replied that she could make her happy. The children were not harmed. She heard that everyone was saved. It seems that near one of the shelters they saw His Majesty. Could it all be thanks to him? Solkershan was surprised, but very happy, because it was simply a miracle that no one was hurt. There were no deaths, and Caesar would no longer have to suffer from guilt. Then the maid remembered that the emperor wanted to discuss with her the promise he had given to him, so he called her to his palace. On the way in the carriage, Marilda exclaimed that, for the first time in her life, she would visit the royal palace, and she wondered what flowers grew in their garden, and also what the royal knights looked like. Luberia sighed heavily, and noted to herself that she seemed delighted, and the thought that she had to go there was driving her crazy. Noticing how she sighed heavily, the maid asked what was wrong. They are going to their dear and beloved emperor, and the fact that he is also my lady's fiancé brings them into complete delight. The girl was surprised who she was talking about. What other beloved emperor? He is a tyrant. After some time, they arrived at the royal estate, and the maid said that she would wait for her in the servants' quarters. Let her have a good time. Then the local servants approached them, and the senior one said that she would help Solkershan change before meeting with His Highness. It was a great honor for her to meet her. Our heroine did not understand what was going on, and why they were all looking at her like that. When Luberia found herself in the royal greenhouse, she immediately remembered the novella she had read in her past life. This was Armeria's favorite place. It was here that Caesar first showed his love for the main character. Everything around turned out to be much more beautiful than she imagined. There was a huge number of different flowers. Then Solkershan froze in place and wondered why she was invited to this greenhouse at all. If she hears any sweet words here again, she may start to waver, and this cannot be allowed. Suddenly, a young man appeared who thanked her for coming. He hoped that the trip would not tire her. The guy prepared a lot of sweets that she loves so much, so she should have a great time. Our heroine noted to herself that this person definitely knows something and is behaving this way on purpose. The young man leaned towards her and added that there was no need to be shy. Let her try, since he was sure that she would like it. It was too late to admit that it was a lie. Maybe everything would be fine if she just swallowed it without chewing. But when she ate a piece, she was very surprised, because the dessert was not sweet. The emperor explained that he thought she didn't like sweets, so he asked the cook to make them unsweetened. Luberia exclaimed, "In what sense? Last time he said that it was so wonderful that she loved sweets." Caesar replied that he was touched by how she lied. But was she really going to eat it all? The girl was secretly angry that she hadn't managed to fool him, after which she said that she had felt very sick at the time. What a cruel person he was. Aiden replied that perhaps he had put too much pressure on her, but he didn't know that she hated them so much. Solkershan replied that she would never hate it, because this dessert is perfect. Caesar added that in any case, since she said that she wanted to become his knight, he called her in order to discuss everything. He is worried about whether such a fragile girl will be able to withstand training, whether everything will be okay with her. Our heroine replied that she would endure it, or at least she should, since she was going to go on a campaign to the east. His Majesty muttered that it was strange. How did she know that he was going to the eastern lands? Solkershan was confused and couldn't immediately figure out what to answer. But she thought to herself, how could she have blurted out such a thing? The emperor suddenly said that the girl must have heard about this from the duke. Luberia immediately came to her senses and replied that, yes, she had overheard everything. Caesar said that he decided not to go to the east. Conquering other countries is somehow bloodthirsty, and the people of the kingdom will not be happy about it. Our heroine wondered if in the original novel, Aiden was not a bloodthirsty tyrant. Unlike the original, the guy protected the children during the situation with the Viscount. But the young man must go to the east, where he will meet Armeria, and a love story will begin. When asked why he changed his mind about going there, whether it was not his desire, the young man replied that he decided that the desire to conquer the continent was pointless. But the strange thing is that my lady speaks as if he simply has to go there, if there is anything important there. The girl thought that she couldn't tell him that he should meet his love there. If everything doesn't go as in the original, then sooner or later she will die. How did Luberia become the main character at all? The emperor added, is it really that upsetting that Caesar won't go to the east? Our heroine replied that she simply admires his compassion for people, but she noted to herself that it's all over. Because of him, the whole novella turned into chaos. The guy won't go to the east and doesn't want to conquer anything. His actions are so different from the events in the work that it's impossible to predict his next move. But why does he treat her so well? Is he also a migrant, like her? If this is really so, then the changes in his character are quite understandable. Aiden added that he had something to tell her. If she really decided to become a knight, she should come tomorrow to greet everyone else, and he would send the uniform to her maid. Also, he will be busy tomorrow, so he will not be able to accompany her. So he ordered the knight captain to accompany her. His name is Ranslot, her ideal type. Our heroine exclaimed that, okay, but she was a little scared by how gloomy he was. In any case, without him, she would be happy and free. Then it dawned on her that the guy hadn't even touched the dessert. Had he really prepared something unsweetened, even though he didn't like it, especially for her? On the way home, the girl thought that such care should have been for the main character, and not for her. What will the emperor do if he doesn't meet Armeria and get cursed? Everything is getting too confusing. Now we have to take into account different possibilities of events. Also the fact that he is actually a settler. After some time, Captain Ranslot reported that this was their training ground. Luberia thanked him and said that now she too would be a knight. Could she call him commander? The young man replied that of course, he had thought to himself that he needed to keep at least 5 steps away from her, by order of the emperor. The girl really looks like a fairy. The legendary forbidden golden leaf Karshan, the golden fairy Skadi. Perhaps his majesty really admires her and cares for her. Solkershan asked, since she had not officially joined the knights, whether she should know about any restrictions. Perhaps everyone would be against her. Looking at the strange faces of everyone else, the young man replied that he did not think that would happen, but if someone offended her, he would punish everyone. The girl objected that if this happens, there is no need to interfere, as this will only make the situation worse. Luberia can stand up for herself. The young man laughed and asked how she was going to do it since she was so fragile. When a stretcher was carried in front of them, the guy said that today they were transferring an arsonist of the shelter. He was badly beaten, his body was wounded, his face was covered with bruises and abrasions, so it was impossible to recognize him. It must be the first time Milady sees such an unsightly picture. He is very sorry. Our heroine muttered that, yes, it was the first time, but she silently hoped that the Viscount would not admit who did this to him. The captain of the knights added that he doubted that he could speak at all, and he was sentenced to death. A just punishment. I noted to myself that she was so kind-hearted. She sympathized with the criminal. She clearly lived up to her title of Princess Skadi. Perhaps her kindness melted the icy heart of their emperor. But our heroine was actually worried that she would be exposed, a secret she needed to take to the grave. During training, the guys thought that in front of them stood the one about whom there were so many rumors. How lucky they were to train with her. After some time, the commander announced to the girl that today's training was over, so she could take a rest in the reception room. Luberia immediately turned around at his voice, after which she noticed that the young men were looking at her strangely. What's wrong? She's also a knight. But in fact, they were thinking about how beautiful Luberia was. Then our heroine exclaimed that, thank you. Next time she will train carefully with them. On the way, Sulkershan thought that her worries were in vain. Although they were behaving a little strangely, everything was fine. Suddenly, a female voice was heard asking if the knights were resting here. How about going somewhere else? Our heroine was indignant. Who is she anyway? And what does she think she is? Is she jealous of the palace or what? Therefore, she replied that the commander said that she could rest here, and that he should forgive her for the inconvenience. The stranger said that she must be Lady Karshan, but did not recognize her at first, after which she introduced herself and said that her name was Cindy. She was from the Varshin house. When she said her name, Luberia remembered who she was, one of the ballroom upstarts, poking her nose into other people's business. In the story, she was disgraced at the ball of one of the heroines. But what does she care about her at all? Or do the vile ladies hold their fan the same way for everyone? When asked why she was wearing a uniform, our heroine replied that from today, she had joined the Order of Knights who guard His Majesty. Cindy asked if they were not engaged, why the bride was working as a knight for the emperor. Luberia hissed that he wanted it that way. The girl muttered that it was interesting. She rarely left the palace, and now she suddenly became a knight. How did she even meet Caesar? From her reaction, Sulkershan realized that this was pure envy, which she did not even try to hide. Apparently, the girl decided that our heroine had entered her territory, and did she really want to engage in a duel? Varshan asked if this was somehow connected with the recent incident when she lost consciousness, although the carriages did not collide. There was a decent amount of noise, whether the girl knew that His Majesty should not have married her. Milady took someone else's place. Isn't she ashamed at all? Luberia thought to herself. What was the point of her words anyway? Yeden's fiancé was in love with someone else, so he found himself another match. When Sulkershan replied that the engagement was broken off because neither partner wanted to get married, Cindy asked how else she was going to justify herself. Our heroine realized that there was no point in standing on ceremony with her and asked what relation her decisions had directly to her, or whether she also wanted to take this place. It seems that Varshan is simply trying to get some information out of her. The interlocutor was indignant that this was too much. She would not tolerate this. How do such vulgar girls get along in the palace? Luberia waved her hand at her and replied that, yes, she was vulgar and was going to rest, so there was no need to disturb her. Cindy screamed that she just wanted to give her advice, because she is older and more experienced, and Sulkershan hasn't even debuted yet. Our heroine replied that as for her debut in society, she herself will soon see everything. The lady can wait with impatience. The girl was furious. How dare she insult a noble lady? Luberia will regret it. The aristocrats immediately began to gossip about everything that had happened. Our heroine noted that they were already spreading rumors behind her back, and yet she heard everything. After which, I decided to simply ignore them, pretend they weren't there, and go about my business. The girl didn't do anything wrong at all, so there is no reason to hide or avoid them. Suddenly, while no one was looking, Cindy slapped herself and blamed our heroine for everything. When everyone stared at Luberia with withering eyes, she noted to herself that this was a very strange feeling. At the moment when Varshan was screaming how a girl could do such a thing, the emperor and some other people entered the room. One of the men turned out to be her father, who was immediately horrified and asked what was wrong with her face. When Cindy blatantly lied in his ear about what had happened, he asked if Lady Karshan had anything she wanted to say. Our heroine didn't understand what was happening. Could it be that they all decided to set her up? When she tried to say that they had got it all wrong, the man exclaimed, "I mean, let him just look at his daughter's face. This child has her whole life ahead of her, and now her face looks like this. What is she going to do about it?" Suddenly, the Duke appeared, who immediately asked our heroine what was going on. He decided to check what all the fuss was about, and saw that she had turned pale. Was she really unwell again? The girl looked at him in bewilderment and muttered that everything seemed to be fine. Then she glanced at His Highness, who was making a gesture with his hand, and realized that she had to pretend to faint. She was very ashamed that she had to act out a drama in front of everyone. But what could she do? Her father immediately shouted that his daughter was not okay after all, and that it was necessary to call a doctor immediately. When the emperor picked her up in his arms, Luberia immediately began to say that she did not beat this Cindy. Let him just believe her. The Duke immediately hissed that Luberia could not have done this. She simply would not have had the strength. The girl objected that the blood of Karshan flows in her, and she is a master of stealing with a sword. Her father immediately shouted, "Did they really think his daughter was lying?" The Duke objected that his daughter would never hit anyone in the face. He noted to himself that if this really happened, Cindy's face would be distorted, because Luberia has not controlled her strength since childhood. After a short dispute, in which the aristocrats could not come to an agreement, they all shouted the emperor's name in one voice and asked what his opinion was. After a short pause, the young man replied that he did not think that my lady could do such a thing. Therefore, he will ask again if Cindy is sure that it was Luberia who hit her. The girl began to mumble that, yes. Sulkershan suddenly came up to her and slapped her. His Highness interrupted her and hissed that he would ask again if Milady was sure that his fiancé had hit her. The man exclaimed that the emperor was putting too much pressure on her. Then who hit his daughter, if not her? Did the girl slap herself or something? The Duke was indignant that Luberia could not have done this, if it had been she who had struck. Then Varshan would not have gotten off with a simple bruise. I remembered all the incidents, starting from childhood, when a girl made a crack in the tower, or accidentally broke a bed, and the bills for repairing things were huge. Then he realized that he had said too much, plus his daughter was glaring at him, as if showing that he couldn't talk about it. Caesar looked at all this and said that first it was necessary to escort Milady to her chambers, since she was not feeling well, and they would discuss the details of this matter later. On the way, our heroine asked if His Majesty had planned everything in advance. The young man replied that Luberia had understood all his signals absolutely correctly. In general, few people are capable of understanding him like that. The girl said that the most important thing is whether he believes it wasn't her. The guy replied that yes. This picture immediately appeared before His Majesty's eyes when Sulkershan hit the Viscount in the face. He said out loud that if she had swung at Lady Cindy, her hand would have gotten it too, wouldn't it? After which he asked why she had such an expression on her face. Was she surprised that he took the side of his bride? Luberia was surprised to herself that he trusted her, after which she began waving her arms and legs so that he would let her go, since she could walk on her own. When His Highness carefully placed her on the ground, he noticed that she had blushed. Is it really all because of the heat? Our heroine was indignant that she always looks like this. The emperor still insisted that her face was red. Whether she was eating normally, the girl replied that she was eating for 4. Aiden replied that it was strange. She was so small and light, and looked like she was about to faint, so he was worried about her. There was no need to worry about what happened. It was better for her to have a good rest. After some time, Marilda exclaimed that Caesar had sent snacks. They were so delicious, weren't they? Luberia thought to herself that she couldn't understand every time whether he was doing it because he was in a good mood or a bad one. The maid announced that Della's night was approaching, an event where the most beautiful and noble women are chosen as Della. Would she participate? This is a competition that takes place in 4 kingdoms: Skadi, Saran, Kalash, and Severo. The goal of the tests is to leave only one contender for the role of Della among all the women. In the spring, by the way, they do the same thing, but with men, and winter is the time of beautiful girls. You could say that it is a combination of the Olympic Games, entrance exams, and beauty contests. Perhaps this would be interesting to the real Luberia, but certainly not to our heroine. Suddenly, the Duke entered the bedroom and declared that he could not tell her about it yesterday because she was very tired, so let her listen to him now. While the girl was thinking about the strange feeling of anxiety that had appeared in her, her father announced that she would be taking part in Della's night. Earlier at the meeting, a man was yelling that his daughter was an amazing, gentle girl. She was simply not capable of harming anyone, and there was no evidence at all that Luberia did it. The girl is very fragile, whose heart is even more delicate than her body, so she could not do something like this. When everyone started discussing that Cindy had set her up, her father realized that high society was clearly not on their side, so in order to avoid punishing his daughter, something had to be done. If this child is truly capable of meanness, the honor of their family will be destroyed. They will refuse to participate in the night of Della. There is no other choice. After which he exclaimed that Cindy had every chance of being chosen for the role of Della. She could not do that. The emperor replied that they would still see about it. After which he turned to Duke Karshan and Marquis Vershen and declared that both their daughters could be chosen for this role. It's just a pity that one of them is lying. In a few days, they will have to leave the country for this event, so let them both take part. The men were so taken aback by the information they heard that they didn't even know what to answer. Caesar continued that they surely know that being chosen for the role of Della is an unattainable dream for many. It is tantamount to recognition of talents, beauty, and intelligence by the entire secular society without exception. Then they will find out which of them is lying. Until that moment, the punishment will be postponed. It is much better than to disgrace the honor of their nation by the absence of candidates. The Duke noted to himself that this was a good method. Everyone would show what they were really capable of, without embellishment. The Emperor added that if anyone had any objections, they should speak up now, and he also forgot to add that he would attend this event personally. After hearing all this, our heroine became furious, because the Emperor, as always, was in his element. After which she asked her father where this night would take place this year. When the man said that in Serena, in the east, the girl pressed her finger so hard on the table that it cracked. I noted to myself that this is the homeland of the main character. Apparently, even if the plotline deviates, there is still the possibility of turning onto the right path. If Armeria and Caesar meet each other, then perhaps love will finally blossom. This time, she would finally be able to get rid of His Highness, so she replied that she agreed. Sometime later, during tea, the Emperor noted that today Milady looked happy. The girl replied that, of course, she was going to Della's night. She thought to herself that she would finally be able to organize a meeting of the main characters, and added that it was every girl's dream to become Della. There was one fragment in the novella. The Duke said that if his daughter had only come there, she would have been chosen without competition. These words were needed so that the reader would understand how important she is as a background for the main character. When Caesar muttered that he didn't think she liked it, the girl asked him if he really thought she could do anything funny. When asked who Luberia took him for, the girl replied that she took him for the Emperor, of course. The guy replied that sometimes she forgets what it means to be His Highness. Luberia exclaimed that not at all. If the knight's behavior seemed inappropriate to him, then he could punish her. When asked why she was putting on a comedy act, the girl replied that she meant that since she was his knight, she should behave accordingly. She will definitely protect him. The guy replied that it was very nice of her. He only relies on her. Solkershan was surprised to herself that she always thought that Caesar was a real tyrant and did not know that he could be emotional, after which she informed His Highness that it was time for her to run to training. Who would have thought that being Edon's bride is such a difficult job? Training with the knights during the day, and at night, continuous teachings on how the Emperor's bride should behave. When they first arrived in Saran, she burst into tears of happiness, but it turned out that even aristocrats work overtime. Sometime later, the girl said that she didn't think she would protect him in such a way. The guy replied that this was a knight's job. He wasn't going to ride in that carriage all the time. A little earlier, she began to feel seasick. The Emperor noticed this and said that the journey would be quite long. His carriage was cast a spell against nausea. Would she like to move to him? Our heroine answered that yes. Thanks to him, she stopped feeling sick, but she still didn't want to go with him. But she said out loud that she was very worried about the upcoming event. They say that girls have been trained in early Della mastery since childhood. His Highness replied that there was no need to worry. He thought that she would easily pass the first test. When asked in surprise what the first test was, Ranslot explained that it was a hunting tournament, and the winner was the one who caught the largest prey. Della must have survival skills, so the first test is carried out in order to weed out the bulk of the applicants. Besides, he knows that natives of Sarana are considered to be natural hunters. According to rumors, the previous Della caught a huge deer while hunting. She was the very princess who is considered the most beautiful in the whole world. How beautiful she is. Then the young man came to his senses and exclaimed that Milady was no worse. Our heroine replied that she was not offended, but noted to herself that it was quite logical that Armeria was beautiful, because she was the main character. Besides, in this novel, she is the second most important character. No one knows better than Luberia how great she is. The girl is not only a beauty, but also a skilled shooter. She has the power of the sun, which heals wounds. She is the main character, so she is capable of everything. And Solkarshan is just a background character who was created to emphasize her radiance. She was endowed only with a non-trivial appearance, and that is all that should have attracted the reader to her. Of course, if we do not take into account the demonstration of her father's character, after the publication of the novel Armeria began to be called Another Mary Sue, and the author was dubbed Manchkin. The Knight reported that Armeria will not be taking part in the event this year, so it has no worthy opponents. Our heroine was taken aback and asked in surprise what he had just said, what the reason was. Ranslot replied that she didn't know. Last year she was chosen by Della, so perhaps she is not interested in participating now. The girl began to get nervous. But what about her plan? She wanted Caesar to meet her, after which she muttered that it turns out that they will not see each other. She was told that the event would take place in the very center of the kingdom, so anything was possible. Our heroine thought that this was not in the novel. History is going on as usual. Is there a way to change it? When they arrived at the place, Luberia noted that this kingdom looked just like an ancient palace. Suddenly, Cindy's voice was heard, stating that she had come despite her poor health. Why shouldn't she refuse while it was not too late? Our heroine replied that she was joking very funny. How could she change her mind after such a difficult journey? And in her mind, she sent this sheep far away. The girl laughed and said what an actress she was. The path was so difficult that she probably had to sleep on the emperor's lap. Luberia thanked her for appreciating her acting skills and taking the best from her. She doesn't want to waste time arguing with her, so she hopes that no problems will arise between them during the event. Suddenly, His Majesty caught up with her and asked who it was that had run away from him, milady. It's quite cold here. She might catch a cold in light clothes. The weather in Serena is different from theirs. The girl replied that, no way. Besides, she's not going to faint and become a burden to him. The young man said that he had never considered her as such. Our heroine objected that she constantly lost consciousness next to him. Is that normal? The guy thought that it was true that something like this happened to her every time in front of him. Was it really because of him? Solkarshan immediately objected that it was not. Then she began to think what to answer him. The only thing that came to mind was that she was simply stunned by his magnificent beauty. After this, there was a deathly silence, and the young man said that he was waiting for her to add something else. The girl replied that in fact one should be grateful for such a compliment. Then the emperor threw his cloak over her and said that he thought she was right, so he would remember her words. To the question whether he was mocking her again, Caesar answered that, of course, not. After which the young man added that she was dressed too lightly, so it would be a little warmer for her. But she should not dress so lightly, otherwise she would get sick. Our heroine thought to herself that he was so caring. But it was okay. As soon as he met Armeria, he would immediately switch to her. Meanwhile, the princess was informed that the dinner would soon begin. Was she ready to change clothes? The girl asked if the ruler of Skadi personally attended the event this time. When the maid said that he had arrived accompanied by his bride, the princess asked her name. Hearing that Lady Luberia Solkarshan, in other countries known as the Golden Fairy or Princess Skadi, the girl muttered that she was interested in her. After some time in the dining room, our heroine was thinking about what to eat. Suddenly, Cindy appeared, who told her not to get underfoot. She could not even imagine that empresses could be so empty-headed. How could she not worry about the honor of Scotty? Luberia told her not to poke her nose into other people's business. It was good that she wasn't sitting next to Caesar, but instead she had to sit next to this girl, both candidates for the role of Della, and had to sit next to her. She was sick of her. Suddenly, a male voice was heard, declaring that the strangers who had come to glorify their country and the nobility of humanity were welcome to Saran, and that the dragon would bless them all. Saran is the homeland of the main character, located in the east of the continent. The locals have served the dragon since ancient times. There are legends that now the descendants of this dragon guard the kingdom. On these lands, they continue to honor the traditions of their ancestors. This is a rather important point, which occupies a significant part of the original. Solkershan shook her head in different directions, but could not find Armeria. Then the king was whispered something, and he said that he had to introduce someone. They say that the Princess of Armeria, last year's Della, will attend the event in support of its participants. Our heroine was glad that in the end, the emperor and the main character would finally meet. Just like in the story, they will meet, and His Majesty will fall in love with her at first sight. The girl said that although she was late, she was glad to see him. Her name is Armeria Vedachelin, and she is the Princess of Sarana. Luberia noted to herself that this was how they were supposed to meet. Due to the changes in the plot, their meeting was postponed. But in the end, loving each other was their destiny. How stupid our heroine is. Why did she even worry about them? But it's good that now her work is over. But why is she uneasy? Armeria unexpectedly approached them and asked if they enjoyed today's meal. Not every foreigner may like their national dishes, so they should not be shy about talking about it. Our heroine replied that everything was fine. She was truly delighted with the hospitality. The holiday was magnificent, not only visually, but also gastronomically. Cindy immediately joined the conversation, exclaiming that they had prepared everything with such care. Simply 1,000 thanks. The princess noted that the lady was so funny, it seemed that they were very similar, while Luberia incinerated her with her gaze. Chelin added that it was only thanks to their generosity that she became Adela last year, so she will do her best to live up to the value of this status. She hopes that all the candidates present at this event will enjoy the Della night together. Solkershan thought to herself that this is what the main character should be like, just an angel in the flesh. Looking after her, the girl thought that this is exactly how everything should be. Everything is returning to its place. Suddenly, Aiden approached her and asked if everything was okay, since she had not even touched the food. Luberia replied that the problem was that she did not really like such food. The emperor noted that, apparently, they could not understand her high taste. The young man could not help but notice her sad expression and wondered if everything was okay with her, after which he said that she was behaving very strangely. Did Milady want to tell him something? If something was bothering her, she should never hide it from him. His Highness is referring to their marriage contract. They are engaged, if she has not forgotten. Our heroine exclaimed that everything was fine. Why didn't the young man believe her? There was no need to look at her as if she were some kind of liar. While the emperor did not understand what was happening to her, the girl added that she felt uneasy, so she had better go. Solkershan didn't understand why everything irritated her so much. She herself wanted Caesar to leave her. Why she felt abandoned. Why did the young man approach her and not the main character? The next day, the girl did not understand what had come over her. The story becomes more and more confusing. Suddenly, the emperor's voice was heard from behind the door, saying that he had noticed that she had been unwell yesterday, so he had come to see if he could come in. When there was no answer, His Highness said that he wanted to give her something and would leave it at the door. After he left, Luberia looked out and saw the cakes, but they were different from the ones she had seen yesterday. After trying it, Solkershan realized that it was not so sweet. The guy made it especially for her. The emperor, she knew, was not so sensitive and kind, but now he has Armeria. Why is he doing all this then? Isn't it too much? Going outside, the girl noted that it was so quiet around, especially in comparison with yesterday's party. A picture of His Highness communicating with the princess instantly appeared in her head. Then she came to her senses and decided that that was enough. Why was she thinking about this all the time? Were there really no other thoughts except about yesterday? After which, she decided to take a walk, and it started to snow, which she had not seen in Scotty for a long time. Suddenly, she saw Armeria talking to someone. She exclaimed why she wasn't told about this before. The girl called the knight her love and asked for forgiveness for telling her father about their relationship without discussing it with him. She just wanted them to be blessed as soon as possible. Our heroine was taken aback as to why this young man, named Nicole, was her love. The young man burst into tears and asked why she didn't give him a chance to stay close. Was he really too unreliable for her? Luberia remembered who it was. Nicholas Dragnion. He comes from an ancient family, all of them descendants of dragons that protect Saran. In the plot, he played the role of a secondary character. The boy always loved the princess, but when she fell in love with Caesar, he swore allegiance to the emperor and protected their common well-being. There is clearly something wrong here. Why did the plot become completely different? In the book, Nicholas never confessed his feelings to Armeria, but was left alone with unrequited love. While our heroine was thinking about what was going on, the emperor's voice sounded in her ear, which scared the hell out of her. When she screamed hysterically, the young people, of course, paid attention to it. The girl approached His Highness, who was standing alone, and was surprised how he ended up there. Our heroine didn't know what to do, so she just mechanically hid in a snowdrift. When the princess asked him what he was doing there, Luberia immediately pulled his leg so that he wouldn't blurt out anything unnecessary. Eden coughed and replied that he was simply looking at the first snow, and his eyes themselves brought him here. This is a delightful place. Sulkershain thought to herself, what is he even talking about? What other first snow? Couldn't he come up with anything better? He has no imagination at all. The guy continued to explain that his fiancée asked him to make a snowman, but at heart she is still an immature child, so she wanted a snowman that looked like her. Inside the snowdrift, our heroine was freaking out. How dare the emperor disgrace her like that? This is too much. The princess noted that he was very romantic, but the knight immediately said that it was time for them to go. After they left, His Highness immediately pulled Luberia out of the snow, who was screaming, "What is he doing? Let him go!" When the young man said that he had not heard words of gratitude from her for helping him disguise himself, since he had extended his hand to her, even when she had brazenly avoided him, the girl exclaimed, "Why was he starting all this?" After which Iden let go of her hands. Having fallen to the ground, our heroine thought to herself that the emperor had definitely done this on purpose. She was sure of it. After which she screamed, "Why did he throw her like that? Who treats his lady like that?" The young man asked. Didn't she recently tell him to let her go? Just kindly allow her to land on the soft snow. Sulkershain came to her senses and replied that, "Okay, thanks anyway for covering for her." Caesar replied that it wasn't worth it. Then the young man added that he would take her to the palace, because she was probably wet. On the way, the girl thought that when she heard their conversation, it seemed to her that there was something between them. If Armeria was busy, where should she put Iden? Suddenly, her head began to spin again due to the memories that came flooding back. The emperor stopped the rampage of Nicholas and accepted him into his ranks. But what was Caesar then? The young man asked loudly whether this was his true nature. A being like him could hardly understand human speech before. Dragnion, let him calm down and look at himself. Does he really think that the princess would want this? When a magical glow appeared around the huge creature, Caesar stated that his powers had awakened. There was such a powerful energy field around him that His Highness was suddenly thrown aside by a wave. Looking at him, the emperor muttered that even though he was a half-breed, he was still a dragon. After she remembered how Nicholas had gone wild then, and Idan had calmed him down, she immediately came to her senses. It was because Armeria drank poison. Seeing her unconscious, Dragnion went into a violent rage and turned into a dragon, risking his life. The emperor stopped him on the verge of his own death. From that moment on, Nicholas became his loyal subordinate once and for all. But due to the injuries he received, Caesar spent several months in a coma. She must act. Now she can't just sit back. These events always come to mind suddenly, like a signal that something will happen soon, as it happened with the fire. The girl realized that this would definitely happen, so it was time to tell about everything that had actually happened to her. But she could only utter a swear word and lost consciousness. The young man thought to himself that this was already the second time. Could it be that my lady was seeing that work again? When he touched her, he saw the princess saying that if Idun looked at her with such eyes, she would feel awkward. His Highness replied that he could not stop, since the girl was incredibly beautiful. The young man noted that there were many oddities when he thought about it. Today he met Armaria for the first time, but it seemed to him that they were familiar. It was as if someone was whispering in the emperor's ear that he would fall in love with this woman. He could have listened to that voice at that ball, but Luberia was nearby. Idun wanted to stop her and ask why she had that expression on her face. What was tormenting her? Our heroine behaved strangely all evening, and then completely lost consciousness. If you think about it, the bride was always very interested in conquering the East in Serena. The reason is probably that he is the main character of the novel, and his partner is supposed to be a princess. Now it is clear why Solkershan rejected his proposal so many times. She knew that his lover should be another woman. But why did she have such a reaction? Maybe Luberia thinks that he might like Armaria. He wants to touch her out of habit. But, after all, this was all just a means to change history. Is he doing the right thing with her? When the girl grabbed his leg from a snowdrift, he personally experienced her incredible strength. It's good that nothing broke. After which, the young man came to the conclusion that it was better not to encounter the princess again. When our heroine was being put in order the next day, she thought to herself that she was dying. If the emperor hadn't appeared yesterday, she would have avoided all these problems, by the way. She looks great even when she's sick. The maid reported that His Majesty had told her to come to him when her health was restored. Remembering what she had blurted out to him yesterday, Luberia asked if she could not go, but the maid objected that she had already reported that she had woken up. On the way, Solkershan thought that she shouldn't have said something like that, because he was the emperor, and in any case, they were calling her precisely because of this. What should she say this time? When the girl entered his room, she immediately felt humidity and high temperature, which meant that the emperor was taking a bath. Caesar immediately asked what happened. Her face was so red. Our heroine objected that nothing, she was just running. While she was wondering why he was wearing so little clothing, the guy told her to come inside because he wanted to talk. Luberia immediately exclaimed that there had been a misunderstanding. She had not sworn in front of His Highness. The young man immediately replied that he didn't care, since he knew that her words did not correspond to her image. In my opinion, the girl never chose her words in front of him. She is the only person with whom he can communicate like that. Our heroine noted to herself that again such a statement, as if words meant nothing. His Highness added that it was just a misunderstanding. His wish had not changed. He wanted her to stay by his side, so there was no need to worry. The girl got angry and screamed, "Does Caesar really think that all people will love the emperor? He is not the main character of the novel." Then she came to her senses and thought that she had once again said everything she thought, but Idun's reaction was somehow strange. After which, the young man said that tomorrow there would be a hunting tournament. He had never heard of her skills. Was everything ready? Our heroine muttered that she was not sure that everything would go well, but she would try. She noted to herself that, to be honest, she doesn't need anything except defeating Cindy. Big loot ensures high scores. Maybe it's worth catching a bear. Eden reported that she heard that whoever shows good results in the tournament will be invited to Princess Serana's tea party. Luberia noted that this is an opportunity to talk to the main character. If everything goes well, then they will find evidence of the upcoming incident. This is not to be missed. It looks like this tournament will be where she will have to show off her abilities. Sometime later, the day of the hunting tournament arrived. The preparations were over. She developed a strategy and even managed to practice a little. His Highness probably doesn't even realize that the bride has prepared so much. After which she exclaimed that she was looking forward to the hunting tournament. She would definitely win, if only he believed in her. Nicholas is connected with Armaria. This is even good. Now the probability that he will turn into a dragon is less, but you can't relax, because the guy can become more purposeful. Then she stated that in order to take part in the tournament, she needed to change clothes, so she would go. Luberia understood that this was a test of courage, but why in the forest and at night? It was a little scary. Suddenly, Cindy's voice was heard, asking if she was scared and didn't want to go back. There was no need to act without preparation. Our heroine replied that it seemed like she was the one who was scared. Suddenly, a male voice was heard. announcing that the candidates could disperse and begin the hunt. Looking at the dark, gloomy, dense forest, the girl thought to herself, did she really have to go there and all alone? While she was thinking about the need to collect her thoughts, since she needed to meet the princess, she saw that the lake was glowing, which meant that there were fairies there. Important events happen, but their reasons may be different. It can be assumed that everything will be the same as in the original. Nicholas became a dragon because Armeria drank poison, so she needs to be warned, then Caesar won't suffer. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, a huge white wolf appeared, its eyes glowing red with rage. Our heroine's legs stopped obeying her from fear. Is this really how she will die? But suddenly, the enraged animal was struck by an arrow that hit the target right on target. It turned out to be the princess, who asked if everything was okay and if she was hurt. It turned out that the girl had only slightly wounded the wolf, so first she had to deal with him. Therefore, Luberia said that she would attract attention with an arrow, and she should run in the other direction. After that, Armeria would follow her. Our heroine tried to object, but the girl interrupted her and told her to run. On the way, Solkershan found a cave in which to hide. She was supposed to protect, but instead received help. Why does she look helpless, even though she has strength? After a short period of time, the princess appeared, stating that she was there and well hidden. The girl reported that she was okay, and the wolf seemed to have left. Luberia immediately thanked her for saving her. If it weren't for her, our heroine would have really died. Armeria replied that even a knight would have a hard time dealing with a white wolf alone. She was also afraid of him, and that was natural. It was good that Solkershan was found before the sun rose. When the princess took our heroine by the hand, she immediately noticed that her hands were shaking. She was scared, but the girl decided to help. What a big difference. They have the same strength. But she is afraid. Chelin reported that the animal was strange. Usually a white wolf always has black eyes, but this one had red ones. Maybe someone was controlling him, Luberia muttered. Was someone targeting her, but she was always kind. Armeria replied that it was just a guess, so no need to cry. Suddenly, the princess sat down sharply and told them to be very quiet, as the wolf was heading into the cave. A moment later, the very same creature actually appeared, and it looked unfriendly. While Solkershan was panicking that their end had come, the princess stated that they had discovered their hiding place. Then, Armeria handed her something and said that when she gave the signal, please let her send it into the sky. It was a signal flare. Now was an emergency, and they needed to survive. After these words, the girl suddenly began to run, distracting the wolf's attention, and shouted along the way that it was necessary to begin now. Our heroine immediately did everything that was necessary and noted that people should see it anyway. After which, smiling happily, she turned to the princess to say that they had succeeded. But the situation turned out to be even worse than before. Armeria fell through the ice and began to sink. Our heroine understood that she needed urgent help, but it was too late to run towards the wolf. She tried to collect her thoughts, since she couldn't remain idle. What could she do right now if she had lost her sword while running away? Then an idea came to her mind. So she picked up a huge boulder and muttered that this time she could protect the princess. Throwing it towards the animal, the girl stated that it would hit the target straight on. Then she quickly headed towards Armeria and quickly pulled her out of the water, but she was already unconscious. Luberia asked her if she was okay, but she didn't hear anything in response. Solkarshan started to panic that she was late. Suddenly, the princess was doused with water as the girl began to sink under the water. Armeria was exhausted, so she could only whisper her name. Meanwhile, the man said that it seemed that no one could resist the beauty of the princess. But Lady Karshan of Skadi was also an extraordinary beauty. The interlocutor objected that it was better not to say that, because they were next to this empire. The guy objected, "What's wrong? Everyone is busy now because of the tournament. Luberia is very fragile. It has a special charm." The young man angrily said that his tongue would bring trouble. They could have big problems. But the young man did not calm down and continued to say that this lady would win the hearts of the men in the kingdom. The boy had no idea that the emperor had appeared behind him and was saying that with her shiny golden hair, blue eyes, and soft white skin, she looked like a doll from another country, didn't she? Suddenly, the voice of His Highness was heard, who noted that they were interested in his bride. They immediately bowed and began to greet the red sun and the brave lion. But Caesar did not accept this, after which he said that the young man spoke well, let him introduce himself, and say what family he was from. The young man muttered that he was the second son of the Duke of Hamold, and then began to try to justify himself. But Idun interrupted him and declared that he had dared to mock the emperor's bride. A simple apology was not enough. He would convey all his words to his father. The duke's son again tried to say something in his defense, but his friend asked him to shut up and leave there quickly. On the way, the guy thought that those people were so stupid that they didn't even recognize the royal residence. How dare they insult his bride? Suddenly, he heard a conversation between two people who were discussing the fact that a signal flare was used in the forest. It seemed that the princess did it. A meeting of the participants was immediately announced, but Armeria and Luberia have still not been found. The young man immediately approached them and asked what it all meant. What happened to his beloved? The guys reported that the signal came from the area near the fairy lake, so they were going there. His Highness immediately said that the matter concerns his bride, so he will go on his own. Let them tell him the exact location. At this time, our heroine began to go underwater. It seemed to her that every cell of her body was frozen. Even if she experiences it again, she still won't get used to it. Luberia would live more for herself if she knew that this would happen. She doesn't care if it's reality or a novel. She would have a heart-to-heart talk with him. Maybe one day she would fall in love with Caesar. The young man who came to her aid thought that it was difficult for him to swim because his whole body was frozen. What should he do? Then His Highness noticed that a bright light was enveloping Solkershan. The young man immediately remembered that this body of water was called the Lake of Fairies, and they protected the girl. Caesar tried to wake her up, but there was no reaction. When he put his finger to her nose, he realized that she was not breathing. The emperor immediately began to give her artificial respiration in order to bring her to her senses, because he could not allow her to leave him. When Solkershan began to cough up water, the youth exclaimed that she had come to her senses, and did she recognize him? The girl whispered the princess's name in a weak voice. The guy noted that she only cared about others, even at such moments. Let her not worry about her. The escorts and reinforcements have already arrived, so everything will be fine. Our heroine began to mumble something unintelligible about Nicholas becoming a dragon. His Highness could not understand what she was talking about and asked again who he had become. Meanwhile, the young man whispered that her whole body was frozen. What was he doing while the princess was in such a state? And what about the child inside her? The grief-stricken young man immediately began to manifest a dragon essence. The emperor immediately hit him on the back of the head and told him to get ready, because the princess was still alive. He called the doctors, so they would come soon. There was no need to think about the bad. The boy immediately had tears in his eyes. He replied that it was fine and thanked the emperor. After some time, the doctor said that this could have led to a bad outcome, but he took action and saved her life. He managed to raise the temperature, so the condition improved. The young man gnawed at himself from within that she had gone into the forest in such a state to fulfill her duty. If he had stopped her, this would not have happened. The doctor replied that there was no need to worry, because the princess was very strong, and this was the child of a strong personality. They were both fine. Nicholas is not in the best condition now. Does he want help to take Armeria? But the guy objected that everything is fine. A little later, His Highness stood near the bed of his beloved. He thought that the wolf under that stone must be the work of Luberia. An ordinary person cannot do such a thing, and the lady has special abilities. This is all very strange, because there shouldn't have been such powerful creatures in the forest. Even last year's Dells and Solkershan couldn't defeat it. Meanwhile, our heroine opened her eyes and watched the emperor. But when the young man noticed this and approached her, she immediately closed them again. Caesar was indignant that he knew that she was already awake. Let her open her eyes. The girl joyfully exclaimed that, "It turns out she was alive." Eden said that she was on the verge of life and death. He was really worried. It's good that he managed to notice that she fell into the water. When he had such a worried expression on his face, our heroine felt ashamed. The guy asked how she got there. Luberia could not say that she hit the white wolf with a stone. Therefore, she began to mumble that she didn't remember well. Perhaps she had met a wolf. The young man replied that it was strange, because this animal was cruel and dangerous. It shouldn't have been in this forest. Caesar began to tell his version of what happened. She saved the princess, lost her strength, and could not get out of the water. Then suddenly a stone flew, and the white wolf disappeared, whether it was so or not. The girl was taken aback and muttered that she didn't remember. Iden noted that when you sleep all day, it's hard to remember anything. When she asked what was wrong with the princess and heard that she was fine, our Maria had long since recovered. Our heroine breathed a sigh of relief. Caesar muttered that she was taking care of someone else again, then began to leave, and reported that the doctor said that she needed a good rest. Luberia noted to herself that it was strange. He seemed unhappy about something, but it was good that he was okay, which meant Nicholas hadn't turned into a dragon. Having added that, thank God, he is alive, our heroine was surprised by her own words. What other thank God? After which she started freaking out, asking what was wrong with her. What difference did it make to her what was going on with the emperor? Why was she worried? Suddenly, Caesar's voice was heard, noting that it was fun to watch. Would she continue? When asked if he had left, Iden replied that he hadn't said he was leaving. She had misunderstood him. Since he managed to enjoy such a spectacle, he will offer her some fruit. Our heroine thanked him and said that since he had already finished his business, he could go. The young man replied that it was difficult for him to leave because he was worried about her. The girl asked if he was hurt. The emperor said that he was not as strong as she, but everything was fine. Luberia didn't understand why he even joked so terribly, as if he knew about her abilities. When asked if she wanted to say anything, the girl replied that she had no complaints. The guy asked if it was because he was her fiancé. She said probably. His Highness whispered in her ear that he did not know that Luberia thought so. He needed to try harder. Solkershan did not understand why she was reacting like that, because he simply called her by name. In general, his beauty was too dazzling. Why was Caesar so close? When the young man looked her straight in the eyes, our heroine began to panic, wondering if this was really going to happen right now. But the emperor put his hand on her forehead and said that she was still a little hot, so it was better to rest a little more, so he would go. Finally, His Highness turned and wished Luberia good dreams. That day, the girl felt the approach of death in deep water. Many thoughts and emotions overwhelmed her. But why did she then remember Iden? The next day, the princess's voice came from behind the door, asking if she could go out. Our heroine exclaimed that, of course. Armeria said that she heard her wake up and came right away, so she hopes she is not disturbing her. Luberia replied that everything was fine. She just didn't look very good in her outfit, and she noted to herself that it was because she had just woken up and she wanted to look good in front of her. But the princess objected that she always looked cute. They are comrades who have overcome difficulties together, so appearance does not matter at all. Then the girl said that she wanted to ask something. She thought about the situation that happened to them. She remembers that they fell into the water. They were chased by a white wolf. But how did they survive? Does Solkershan remember? Our heroine was immediately horrified. Could she really have been burned? But Armeria was in the water at the time and could not see that she had killed the wolf. So you can't show your weakness. You need to be more cunning here. After which she muttered that she also didn't remember, since she fell into the water and lost consciousness. Switching into acting mode, she added that perhaps, like in the legend of Sarana, the lake fairies saved them. The girl replied that it was an interesting hypothesis, but she had actually seen everything. The princess saw clearly how Luberia took a huge stone in her hands and threw it at the wolf. Then she jumped into the water to save her. Did she miss anything? And only after that, Armeria lost consciousness and does not remember what happened next. Solkershan was taken aback that she saw absolutely everything, after which swear words burst from her mouth, and she immediately realized that she had sworn in front of Her Majesty. Our heroine tried so hard to hide everything that happened, but she was exposed. First, you need to calm down and think about what to do next. Maybe start threatening her, but she can't do something so disgusting against such a kind and pure person. Then she decided to pretend that nothing like that had happened and asked if perhaps she had imagined it. Luberia really did jump into the water to save her. But what a huge stone! Armeria replied that, of course, it was impossible for an ordinary person, but it seemed that she also had a similar power as the princess. Chelin also has power. That's why she knows. She feels a powerful energy that comes directly from her. Solkershan began to sniff herself and ask what? Did she really stink? The princess replied that she didn't mean that, but she just felt it. The girl believes that their power attracts girls to each other. When she sees it, her heart beats faster and her mood rises. Luberia was surprised, because she also feels something similar next to her. Perhaps it is all because of the power of the sun. Armeria continued that she was the first one who made her feel such tender sensations. The lady is special to her. Our heroine thought to herself that such statements about such a beauty are a dangerous thing, so she didn't even know what to answer. Then it dawned on her that she had known everything before, and therefore what she had seen her with the stone on the shore was a lie. The princess laughed and said that it was the pure truth. In fact, it was then, having seen her strength, that she was completely convinced of this. Luberia threw the huge stone with such ease, and it was then that she realized that even having the same strength, its properties can be different. Solkarshan replied that she was actually hiding her strength. The princess was surprised that she was doing this on purpose. Did even Caesar not know? The girl replied that of course he should never know about it. Armeria asked if she could tell why, since they were comrades who had been through life and death together. Luberia thought to herself, why is this happening to her? First the main character, now also the main heroine? How can you refuse the most beautiful people in this world? Meanwhile, Nicholas Dragnion came to the emperor, and the latter asked why he was there. The young man replied that he had come to thank him for saving the princess and him. Caesar thought that in the memory of his bride, he faithfully served Princess Serana, but now became her lover, as if filling the void. Aiden did not want to conquer the East, so it seems the future has changed. After which he replied that it was not he who saved the princess, so he did not need gratitude. He only saved his bride, who almost drowned, so he does not want to be thanked for something the emperor did not do. The young man exclaimed that he had almost lost control then, but His Highness interrupted him and said that it had simply seemed so. Nicholas asked if perhaps Aiden knew from the beginning who the guy really was. The emperor clarified if he meant that half of his body was soaked in dragon blood. Now it is clear why the young man came to him. He is here to ask him to keep everything a secret. Dragnion replied that he simply asked to pretend that he didn't see anything, because he can't control it. It's enough for him to just be the princess's bodyguard. The guy hopes that his existence will not become a burden for her. His Highness replied that, well, keeping it a secret was not such a difficult task, but in the future, he will ask you to fulfill one request of his, and that will be enough. The young man exclaimed that, of course, he would definitely repay him for helping the princess. The emperor replied that he was glad that they understood each other, and he also thanked him, but to himself, he thought that he was very easy to manipulate. At this time, the princess said that she had heard that she had health problems. Was it true? Then noted that she had just taken this thing in her hand, and it had already bent. Luberia thought to herself that this was the first time she showed her strength, so she was a little ashamed. But out loud, she said that this was her specialty. Armeria said that she really wanted to see everything with her own eyes, so thanks to her, our heroine asked her to keep it a secret. Chelan exclaimed that if the mistress wanted, she could rule the whole world. Luberia noted to herself that, as befits the main character, she also shows here that she dreams of something more. Then, the girl asked why she had not told the emperor about this secret, since he was her fiancé, wasn't he? Our heroine replied that only the king wanted this. Armeria asked whether they had a forced engagement. Solkarshan thought that in the past, she definitely did not want this engagement. But can we say that she thinks the same now? The princess looked at her and said that she thought that the lady herself already knew everything about her feelings, didn't she? The girl thought that she couldn't become the main character. Instead of Armeria, she wasn't even sure if she could be with Caesar, so she replied that she couldn't figure out her feelings. Noticing that our heroine was very downcast, the princess asked her not to be so sad. Of course, they hadn't known each other for so long, but she wanted to help her. After a while, Luberia thought about how she could reveal her secret, but it was such a relief, because she was tired of pretending to be someone else. But if she told Caesar, the guy would be angry that she had been deceiving him all this time. It would be better to tell him everything at once. Then she exhaled that she had thought up such nonsense. Nothing had happened yet, but she was already nervous. She needed to get rid of these thoughts. Suddenly, she saw the emperor in the distance and decided that she needed to quietly slip away, since she didn't want him to see her like this. But His Highness said that he came to her on business, so let him stay, please. Our heroine immediately said that she simply didn't notice him, let him pass by, and she'll quickly make some tea. Because he spoke to her so formally, the girl began to get nervous about what business he had with her. When Sulkershan opened the door to the room where he was, it immediately bent. Luberia began to nervously lament what was wrong with her. Was she really rusty? It was strange. She only opened it a little. His Highness said that the door was probably broken, so he would call a repairman, but the girl objected that she could do it herself. When they sat down at the table, the Emperor said that he wanted to congratulate her personally. She had the best result on the first exam. The princess reported that the girl was able to defeat the White Wolf on her own. Our heroine was indignant to herself that Armory had said that she would keep her secret a secret. His Highness added that, more precisely, she was impressed by the fact that Luberia did not hesitate to save her from the White Wolf. It doesn't matter what happened to him, whether he was crushed by a huge stone that accidentally fell on him, let him have no doubt. It was confirmed by experts, because the main point of Della is not just to find a strong person. The girl objected that she didn't catch him. Is that normal? She was just lucky, so it's not a fair victory. Our heroine was so scared that she couldn't do anything. She wasn't even sure that she saved the princess. The Emperor objected that this series of events led to a good result. It was also impolite to reject the expert's decision. Let him try to simply accept it with gratitude. The girl noted to herself that she couldn't dwell on this for long. She didn't think he had any suspicions, so everything should be fine. So she replied that, of course, she would accept this with gratitude. Caesar handed her the letter and said that it was the invitation that had been given to her. Our heroine noted that if this ball is going to be with the princess, then Nicholas should be there too, right? Edian asked why she was asking about this. The girl replied that this man from the Saran kingdom is famous for his reliability and coolness. He is known as the most courageous, so of course she is interested. The emperor asked where she got this information from. She is a noble lady who never left her estate. So how does she know so much about a knight from a distant country? Our heroine replied that she had heard the conversation of the local maids, so she too became interested. The young man hissed that it seemed to him that she, my lady, sometimes forgot that her fiancé was the emperor. Luberia replied that she had not forgotten. The guy asked then why she constantly praised other men in front of him. Sulkershan wondered if he was still upset about what she had told him last time. Therefore she exclaimed that, no, of course not, because before her stood the most beautiful, wonderful, magnificent king. Now she would punish this mouth that blurted out the wrong thing. But His Highness quickly grabbed her hand and said that she shouldn't do this, because she could harm herself. Our heroine added that a man more handsome than him does not exist in this world, so he should not be jealous. Idan is offended because she didn't tell him that he is the most handsome in the world. Nicholas may be handsome, but not that handsome. The emperor is incomparable, so there is no need to worry. She noted to herself that even Caesar himself has doubts about his attractiveness. He has cute features that she didn't know about. When the young man replied that he was not jealous, but simply stating a fact, the girl replied that if he was so worried, then why not go to the evening ball with her? She suddenly realized to herself what nonsense she had just said, because he might think that she wanted to go with him. The emperor replied that since she was proposing, he would go to the ball with her, because he was just free at that time. After a while, Luberia thought to herself that she can no longer hide her feelings. She is not as brave as the main character. She always tries to escape from death because she is afraid. But now our heroine is completely convinced that she loves His Highness. After a while, Cindy said that it was really impressive. They managed to use the wolf incident to the princess's advantage. It's not fair, is it? Our heroine asked for forgiveness and said that she was not in the mood to answer this. Could she please leave? In fact, Luberia was busy thinking, the emperor does not even love her, but still got engaged to her, always appears when she needs him, and confuses her. It was really hard to admit it to herself, but she really did love him. Then she thought about it and muttered out loud that maybe she should become the main character of this story after all. The girl was furious. How could she not be ashamed to say that she would become the main character in the second exam right in front of her? She put so much effort into becoming Della, and Sulkershan says such things when she is here. This place will belong only to her and no one else. The girl thought to herself, that in fact she is an ordinary villain, stuck in a pattern, and therefore there is no point in even getting angry. Suddenly, the princess appeared and said that she was worried about the results of the first exam, which is why she came to her. Are the other candidates causing her problems? Everyone is trying to become Della, but some people do not know how to accept their defeat, so she is afraid that this arrow may be aimed at the lady. When Luberia replied that she didn't pay attention to it because it was an important exam and everyone was very focused, and she was already used to the disapproving looks, Armoria noted that her words always made the princess happy, which touched her. Then the girl added that she had many stories that she would like to tell Solkershan, but it would be better to do this at a tea party sometime later. Our heroine immediately asked if the fact that she killed the wolf remained a secret. The princess replied that there was no need to worry. She would undertake to keep her secret and especially hide it from Caesar. Our heroine thought that she resisted because she didn't want to follow the original plot, but it seems she can't resist beautiful people. After some time, Armeria noticed that His Excellency had also arrived. She prepared another cup of tea at the request of the lady. Our heroine answered that, yes, they came together, but she thought to herself that Idan was not in the mood for some reason. Besides, Nicholas came as the princess's partner, and she thought that he would be here as a guard. Chelan noticed the bewilderment on their faces and said that they actually had something they should definitely tell Luberia, because she had saved more than just her life back then. The girl saved her child too. The emperor probably knew about it. Caesar replied that, yes. He heard her guard muttering to himself. Solkershan was taken aback by the information she heard. It turns out Idan failed even before trying. It's simply unbelievable. After which she exclaimed that the princess would become a mother. Her congratulations. Armeria thanked and replied that it was very important for her to receive congratulations from her. Then it dawned on Luberia that Nicholas was the father. Now it turns out that he does not suffer from unrequited love, so no one will suffer because of him. Suddenly, tears started running down our heroine's cheeks, and she couldn't control it at all. Everyone present began to look at her strangely, so she decided that it was necessary to change the topic as soon as possible. After which, she quickly grabbed a piece of cake and exclaimed that it was so delicious. It was finger-licking good. The emperor asked sullenly if she really liked it that much. Maybe she was just hungry. Let her tell the truth. Nicholas noted that, apparently, Milady loved sweets more than the one she was engaged to, while Luberia was burning with shame. What will happen to her image now? They probably all think she is very strange. However, the cake turned out to be really tasty and not sweet at all. Why? Armeria explained that His Highness came early and gave instructions to make the desserts less sweet, specifying that the bride does not like cloyingly sweet desserts. It seems that he values her very much. Our heroine was surprised that he remembered such small details. She had no idea that the emperor was so attentive. Does he know that she fell in love with him because the guy treats her so well? But Caesar said that he was engaged to her not because he loved her, so she shouldn't have any hopes. Suddenly, the princess said that there was something else to discuss. If there was anything she wanted to know about the second exam, they would provide her with information within their competence. The second exam is a written test that tests wisdom. One of many topics will be chosen, and knowing which topic will be used will allow you to be ahead of other candidates. Our heroine thanked her, but said that she would not take advantage of this privilege since she was already under suspicion of dishonesty. Armeria objected that this was an advantage for all winners of the first exam. Solkershan replied that she would compete based on her own knowledge. The princess replied that she was surprised. The lady is really brave. Luberia wants to stand up against injustice. If it is her will, then she will support her. Nicholas intervened in the conversation, saying that she was ready to throw herself into an icy lake to save his beloved, so he was sure that she would pass this exam with flying colors. The princess agreed with his words and added that they did not doubt it at all. Unexpectedly, His Highness said that he also believed that Milady could become Della. Our heroine began to get nervous that everyone was counting on her so much that she would even respond to this, after which she collected her thoughts and exclaimed that she would do everything to become Della. There were many rumors that she would win the first round of the exam. Most of the participants were moderate in this, as everyone compared her to a princess. However, she had already gone through all this in a past life, which is why she was having to go through all this again after so many years. The second stage is somewhat similar to the entrance exam to a university, although preparation for it takes a whole year. Each candidate is provided with a separate room for the examination, which lasts 80 minutes. Optimal testing conditions are established, taking into account the individual characteristics of each candidate. I don't know if Luberia could solve this, but I'm confident about what will happen next. Then she turned her attention to the water and did not understand why it was there. Perhaps to quench her thirst. She had seen Cindy holding exactly the same bottle earlier, so there must be one in every room. After which she decided that she needed to give it her all and took a small sip. But almost instantly, our heroine passed out and fell onto the desk. After some time, she woke up and noted to herself that she had slept very well. Then she realized how she could have fallen asleep at all, and there were only 20 minutes left until the end of the exam. First of all, you need to calm down. Because you told everyone that you would do everything in your power, there is no time to panic. After reading what was written on the piece of paper, Luberia noted that it was not as difficult as she thought, just math problems. But there were too many of them. But, in principle, they were not much different from each other. Was she really lucky she could cope with this? Suddenly, Nicholas appeared and said that he was very sorry, but it was time to hand in his work. He could not do anything about it, because that was the rule of the exam. Having turned on maximum speed, the girl tried to finish writing what she wanted. She finally finished. Our heroine didn't feel so tired, even after not sleeping all night because of the excitement before the exam. It was all very strange, even though the girl was sleepy. But why, as soon as she took the brush, she immediately passed out? Solkershan only remembers drinking water. Could it be that they put something in her bottle? Suddenly, a voice was heard, which said that everything needed to be examined and the room cleaned. She had 5 minutes to leave the room. Luberia decided to take this bottle with her just in case. Our heroine did not expect such a trick on the exam. Someone deliberately set her up. Then she imagined that the emperor was waiting behind the door, who said that, although it was a little late to ask, but did she have any problems? The girl replied that everything was just wonderful, but she noted to herself that he always came when she had problems, and she began to get the impression that the guy was involved in this. But there was no one in the corridor, so Luberia told herself that it was just funny. She had made up all sorts of things here. Suddenly, Ranslot's voice was heard, informing her that His Majesty had plans for the evening, so he had to leave her. Therefore, he asks her not to be upset about this. The girl exclaimed that she was not upset at all. The knight immediately began to back away and tell her not to come near him, since he had to carry out orders. Our heroine said that overall she was fine, but there was one thing she needed to investigate. This is going to sound a little weird, but could the guy check if there was any poison in that bottle? When asked what happened, the girl said it was a long story. She thought to herself that she was wary of Cindy, but it was unlikely that someone who cared about honor would do something like that during an exam. Maybe it was the one who organized the exam, or the Scotty people. Plus the princess mentioned that the wolf was kind of strange. Is our heroine really the target? Who are they anyway? Why are they trying to kill her? The young man asked if everything was okay, because she had turned pale. He wanted to help her, but he would have to report everything to His Majesty. Luberia replied that it was okay. Everything was fine. She thought to herself that she doesn't know why they don't like it, but she doesn't intend to die at all. This is her second chance, and she will never miss it. No matter how much you think, there is no one among the Scotty people who would do something like this. Most were finished off when Caesar destroyed the corrupt nobility. The last one who remained was the Viscount, but he also dropped out. There were disagreements with the Marquise, but he did not seem like a vindictive person. So who is it then? What did the girl do? She doesn't remember hurting anyone, so why does this continue? This all irritated her very much. So Solkershan grabbed the pillow and threw it to the side with force. She hit the emperor straight, who noted that he came here because he was worried. But the girl looks very energetic. Our heroine did not expect to see him and asked why Caesar entered without knocking. The guy apologized and replied that if something was connected with her, then he did not realize what he was doing. Then he added that she had hidden something from him. The knight told him that she had instructed him to examine the bottle of water that she had drunk during the exam. Luberia asked if there were any results yet. The young man exclaimed that he wanted to know all the details of what had happened. The bride replied that she drank water from this bottle during the exam, and instantly fell asleep. Now she is afraid that she might die from poison. Perhaps someone is targeting her, or maybe she is wrong. The young man was taken aback by the information he heard and muttered that it was very mean. Our heroine said that this could happen again, so now she can't sleep peacefully. The emperor declared that he had no other choice then. He would stay and sleep with her today. If they did so, she would no longer be afraid. Then he moved even closer to her and said that there was no need to be shy, because she looked very scared. When he put her to bed, our heroine thought about what she should do now, as she had asked me to do. When asked what would happen if someone found out about this, the guy asked if it was really a problem. Luberia exclaimed that of course it was a problem. An unmarried girl in the same bed with a man, her beautiful life in another marriage would be destroyed. The young man replied that he wanted to upset her, but her path to marriage was already blocked, and he was not going to break off the engagement with her. The girl asked in bewilderment if Her Highness didn't hate her. The guy asked her why she thought that Luberia didn't want to marry him, and he was trying so hard to change her mind. Maybe she hated him. Our heroine decided that he got engaged to her, not because he liked her, but to use her. There is no need to be mistaken about his feelings for her, because Caesar is not interested in her. The young man noted that she did not want to answer, so he collapsed next to her and said that it would be okay if they slept together, since they were engaged after all, and there shouldn't be any problems. Then the young man stood up abruptly and said that he had forgotten something, after which he began to take off his outer clothing. When asked what he was doing, the guy replied that it wasn't strange to sleep with a blanket on. His daughter-in-law liked to look at the torso. Aiden heard that from her. Our heroine was indignant that he was saying such a thing. Did he really think he was joking here? What made him think that she would drool over his naked body? The young man replied that he thought that this was his daughter-in-law's preference. Luberia replied that she liked it, but not at the moment. The young man stated that she still liked him, so he should be more careful. Sulkershan exclaimed that she had enough, so she went to bed. When the emperor wished her good night, the girl thought to herself that now she could not sleep, because she wanted to take revenge. After some time, Luberia couldn't believe that he was just sleeping next to his bride. Was she really that unattractive? But still, he is not disgusted by being in the same bed with her. Why did he insist on the engagement at all? She just wants a quiet life. This was all said out loud. The next morning, Caesar noted that he could not sleep after these words. He does not understand what is happening to him. At first, he wanted to get her memories, because she read a book that told him about his future, which she changed, and this could destroy his ambitions. But now his feelings are understandable. He cannot sit idly by when the bride is in danger, because she cannot even ask her groom for help. So it would be fair if His Highness took the initiative into his own hands. The princess stated that the reason he came here in such a hurry was probably related to Luberia. Aiden replied that this was the second time she had been threatened. During the test, someone had put drugs in her water bottle. This happens too often to be a coincidence. He came here because he is worried about his fiancée. Our Maria replied that this also seemed suspicious to her. I thought to myself that this forest was not originally a habitat for white wolves. It is clear that they were released there intentionally. After which, the girl said that she needed to tell him something about the incident with the animal, whether he knew that she had the power of healing. The source of her ability is the power of the sun. Perhaps the criminal cast a spell on the white wolf to awaken this power. However, the animal chased Solkarshan, and an accident occurred. To explain why Luberia became a target, she must tell the truth, whether it is possible to reveal to His Majesty what she is hiding from him. Noticing that she hesitated, the emperor immediately said that he knew that his bride had special abilities. Apparently, they made some kind of promise to each other. The girl wanted to hide her power, and so the guy pretended not to know, but no longer wants to do this. His Highness wants to know everything in the smallest details concerning his bride. The princess stated that if he already knew everything, then he could continue. Her guess is that she, not Luberia, was the white wolf's target at the hunting competition. Originally, wolves were animals that formed packs to hunt weak creatures. They can naturally recognize creatures that are weaker or stronger than them. The emperor objected that she was mistaken. Physically, Sulkershan was the strongest among all the candidates who participated that day. Armeria replied that this was true, but there was a reason why the animal targeted such a strong person. Seeing how she solved this problem, the girl was able to know all this. In other words, the white wolf was forced to harm the man who has the power of the sun. The guy stated that their target was the princess who is known for her abilities. But when another one appeared, there was a misunderstanding. As Princess Sarana, she apologizes for this situation with his fiancé. In the second trial, Luberia became a target only so that the girl could not get close to her. Nicholas asked her not to be so strict with herself. It was all because of his stubbornness. The blame lay entirely on him. Caesar said that, in other words, someone mistakenly thought that Scotty was helping them, only because Luberia was his fiancée. Armeria replied that everything is correct. The culprit is afraid that the princess will receive support from their empire. There is an assumption that the drug added to the bottle of water was a continuation of the story with the white wolf. Because anyone who fails the test on Della's night must return to their kingdom, she is not sure who exactly is the culprit, but the handwriting is similar to her ex-husband. Having asked her father's permission to break off the engagement, he still pretends to be her husband and tries to gain power. Based on everything that happened, there is a high probability that this is a conspiracy. The princess is very sorry that His Highness's bride suffered because of her. Caesar exclaimed that the situation was unpleasant. Despite the fact that Nicholas received consent from the royal family, their relationship was not officially announced. Why is he not ready? How long was he going to hide behind the back of the man he was supposed to protect? The guy thought to himself that Aiden was right. Nicholas is a descendant of dragons and wanted his abilities to be recognized so he could stand proudly next to Armeria. His stubbornness delayed the official announcement of whether it was worth putting her in danger. Therefore, he asked forgiveness for the fact that, through his shortcomings, he had endangered him and Luberia. He is truly sorry if the test was failed due to taking medication. Retaking it is not provided anyway. As he left, the emperor said there was no need to worry about it. He was sure his bride had not been interested in the title of Della from the very beginning. Armeria said that she heard that there was no love between them. But was she the only one who felt that Caesar really liked Luberia? The guy replied that he didn't know much about it, but it seemed to him that he cared about her. The princess said that the test results were ready. Shouldn't they take a look at them? The guy replied that he agreed, but he shouldn't expect good grades from Solkershan because she was drugged. But the results of the second exam really surprised them, so for a second they were speechless. Meanwhile, our heroine woke up and thought that she couldn't get a good night's sleep because of Caesar. Now she feels sick. He comes and disappears at will, and he promised that he would stay with her. What a selfish man. When the girl entered the bathroom and began to take off her clothes, she heard the voice of the emperor, who said that he thought it would have been better not to take them off. Looking straight ahead, Luberia saw the young man and exclaimed what he was doing there. Why is he naked again? The guy asked. Should he really ask permission to go to the bathroom? The girl objected that he had his own bathroom. The guy asked if she hadn't grabbed his hand and asked him not to let go. Luberia was indignant that he was lying, but the young man said that if the bride did not want to believe it, then so be it. How long did she plan to spy? Because of her, he could not change his clothes. The girl replied that she was not looking at him. When Caesar said that since she had already seen enough, then he would go, the girl could not stay on her feet and fell to the floor. The guy immediately said that he had noticed long ago that her knees were very weak. His Highness helped her up and asked if everything was okay with her. The girl replied that, yes, nothing serious, except that her knee was bleeding a little. The young man immediately picked her up in his arms and said that first it was necessary to take her to the room and carry out treatment. Our heroine thought to herself, why does it seem to her that Aiden can't look her in the eyes? Is he embarrassed? On the way, the young man asked if she was in pain, and if anything happened, he could call a doctor. But Luberia objected that the pain was not that severe. Suddenly, the doors opened, and a maid appeared, who happily reported that she had returned and how the mistress had felt while she was away. She was afraid that she would miss the moment when the girl became Della, so she was in a great hurry. Then she noticed that Luberia was with the emperor and asked for forgiveness. Since she did not want to disturb them, she should leave this place. Marilda just wanted to say hello. It had been a long time since they had last seen each other, and she had come here in a hurry because she wanted to tell her something. But it seems that her foolish mistress did not waste time. Few people know this novel better than our heroine. She was one of those who bought the edition and reread it again and again. It seemed to her that this knowledge would be useful. But is it so? The maid reported that her mistress took second place in the second exam. After some time, the girl looked at the results herself and was convinced that it was true. Suddenly, Cindy's voice was heard saying that she had just found out that she had barely made it in time. So it was surprising that she had gotten second place under the circumstances. Wow, what a surprise! Did Solker Shan really prepare for this exam? Our heroine noted to herself that even here she had already formed her own company, but she was not popular in social circles. Solker Shan must have experienced this constantly. The girl simply grew up with the idea that she was an orphan, and Luberia isolated herself, fearing misunderstandings towards her. Since they are so similar, it is not even surprising that she took possession of this particular body. Cindy's boasters exclaimed that compared to her, who took first place, Solkershan was simply nothing. Our heroine was taken aback by the fact that she had won. The girl asked what Luberia was doing here. Shouldn't she hurry to celebrate her victory? Scotty took first and second place. The girl still couldn't believe that she took second place, a result that she had never received in her past life. She was sleepy and her head was filled with thoughts. She couldn't believe that she could get such a result. The young man said, to make everything fair, they would now hand out the answers with grades. Luberia noted that she actually got almost everything right, but she answered the last two questions incorrectly. If she had received such grades in her past life, she would have been able to easily enter university. But that is no longer important. Now you need to put aside all unnecessary thoughts and focus only on the final test. After a while, Caesar approached her and said that he heard that her result was very good for someone who did the task for only 20 minutes. Now he understood why she was so confident. Luberia knows how to surprise. The girl replied that she was flattered, but she thought to herself that she was simply using her experience from a past life, an unforgettable feeling. How good it was that she read the novel. His Highness sat down next to her and said that there was one thing he would like to ask her. The Emperor was simply curious about what it was like for her to see every inch of his body. Our heroine was horrified. Did he really hear her chatting with the maid? And she asked out loud what he was talking about. Eden replied, didn't she tell her maid how she examined every inch of his body? The girl exclaimed, did the guy really hear everything? How dare he enter her room and eavesdrop on the conversation? The young man objected that they were making so much noise that everything could be heard from outside. Luberia replied that he must have simply misheard. The Emperor asked if she meant that he had hearing problems. Our heroine noted to herself that he himself was to blame for that situation. She didn't really want to see it. She said out loud that, in any case, the next time the guy wants to visit her room, he should ask permission. This also applies to her bathroom. The guy objected that this is his fiancée's room. When Luberia replied that they were engaged, not married, so there could be a big misunderstanding, the young man asked what exactly she was talking about. The girl replied that in fact there is a line that unmarried couples need to follow. Just like that time when he lay down next to her, he shouldn't have done that. The young man asked her if she didn't like it when he slept next to her. Solker Shan replied that this was not entirely true, but in any case, did he understand her? She promises that he will not be well if he breaks this promise. The Emperor asked where the bride gets such words from. Our heroine replied that it was not important at the moment, so let him just promise her, and His Highness did so. After which he asked if this promise was only valid while they were engaged. Luberia replied that probably yes. The Emperor stated that it was then necessary to hurry with the wedding. The girl at first answered that yes, but then she came to her senses, as she realized what he had said. His Highness added that he did not like this promise, so he hoped that she would soon change her decision. Upon returning to Scotty, they will immediately get married. No more objections will be accepted. Now they crossed their little fingers, which means that they made an oath to each other. Our heroine immediately pulled her hand back and exclaimed that it was unfair. The Emperor asked if she didn't like something. If so, then let her tell him, and he would listen. The girl replied that when she was young, she dreamed of a wonderful proposal of marriage, so that it would not be in any way ordinary, but in a beautiful place, surrounded by flowers, and so that the groom would sing her a serenade, namely, my beautiful little fairy, you are all that I have. The guy did not understand what other fairy. after which she added that she would pretend that she had not received the offer and began to run away. The young man stated that he had no other choice, so he had to do as she wished. The final exam is the social score, which determines the impeccable manners and elegance of the participants. There were 2 days left until the final test, so the princess and our heroine went to the market square. Armeria, upon seeing the pink shoes, exclaimed, "Aren't they lovely?" Solkershan replied that it would be very cute if a child wore such. Also, the bow and arrows look very cool. All noble girls are trained in archery from an early age. When asked if she already knew the sex of the baby, the princess replied that it was just her intuition. Solkarshan noted to herself that the novel said that she had bad intuition, but nevertheless, she saved Caesar's life several times. Perhaps this is the ability of the main character. After which she said that it would be great to buy a beautiful dress for the baby in advance. Meanwhile, Nicholas was telling His Majesty that he had no idea that things would turn out this way. Aiden replied that he had no need to apologize. They met by chance on the street and decided to look around the market together, so they couldn't stop it. Suddenly, the young man thanked him for the warning. It helped him realize how smug he had been. When asked whether he had decided to announce his engagement to the princess, the guy replied that, yes, he planned to use this opportunity to correct his mistakes. He also plans to reveal that he is a descendant of dragons. The emperor replied that this is not a bad idea. Nicholas said that Caesar has helped him twice already, so he really wants to repay for his help. The young man replied that he never thought that he would give advice to anyone, and that he did not even intend to save him at the lake, but did so only because someone else wanted him to help him. Dragnion asked in surprise if he wanted to say that it was Luberia who was trying to protect him. His Highness replied that this was exactly how it was. This girl was constantly getting into trouble, so it was her who needed to be repaid, not him. The boy wondered if he was the only one who felt that the emperor really liked Solkershan, and said out loud that she really was like the sun, and must be very dear to him. Caesar objected that not really, but he didn't have time to explain anything further, because the girls came out to them, and it turned out that he met Luberia's gaze. As Nicholas began to ask if they had finished sightseeing, the guy suddenly turned away. Armeria apologized for waiting for them for so long, but our heroine didn't understand what was happening to Idan. Therefore, I approached him and asked why he turned away, let him tell it like it is. The emperor objected that everything was fine, but the girl said that he was a liar, because it was all written on his face. The young man looked at her and wondered if perhaps he really was a liar, since he could not hide his emotions at all. After which he said that it was already late, so let her go and buy the dress she was going to buy. Luberia exclaimed that, indeed, she had already completely forgotten. The boys quietly whispered, "Isn't this love after all? Don't these two love each other?" On the way, the girl asked why he was looking at her like that, when he had nothing to say. Caesar objected. Couldn't he look wherever he wanted? Things that you shouldn't look at and that you shouldn't touch. Isn't that one of their promises? Our heroine replied that rules are rules, but worrying is something else entirely. Idan replied that, nevertheless, she continued to devour him with her gaze. Luberia indignantly exclaimed that he was simply unbearable, and she really had not seen anything. The emperor asked why she did not put her hand on her heart, and repeated again. She spoke freely about this with the maid, and even seemed to say that she liked it, or that he was wrong. Solkershan blushed and screamed that, okay, she saw everything. However, didn't he come to her because he was bored? The one who was there without permission was to blame. When she turned and walked away, the emperor stated that he had nothing to say. Meanwhile, at the Saran Kingdom exhibition, Jehu Lee Sales was yelling at his subordinate and asking why he couldn't handle such an easy task. He couldn't even cope with such an easy task as mixing medicine into water. How did this girl manage to take second place? The boy tried to explain that Luberia was on drugs. He personally saw her sleeping, but the chief yelled at him to shut his mouth. Useless trash. This was such a wonderful opportunity to remove the emperor and his beloved. Then he snapped his fingers, and the guards began to lead the guy away, and he screamed for another chance. The man thought to himself that he wanted Princess Armeria to just quietly marry him. He can't believe it's gone this far. After which he asked if the letter was ready to be sent. The young man replied that, yes, he had already put the seal on it. Jehu noted to himself that this would be enough to tarnish the princess's reputation and deal with that unbearable bodyguard. The king treasured her so much, but what good would it do if he couldn't protect his beloved? A few days later, the day of the final exam arrived, which would determine everything. Our heroine didn't want to wear this dress, but they dressed her up anyway and asked her if she wanted to look at herself. The maid looked at her with loving eyes and said that she looked simply magnificent. The social ball looks like an ordinary meeting place on the outside, but there will be candidates for Della, VIPs, and hidden examiners. You need to shine. Even among the countless stars, you need to prove it in this test. Luberia originally planned to eat a lot of sweets in some quiet corner, but because the dress was tied too tightly, it will be difficult to do so. The girl is so happy that the emperor gave her this dress. If she had known in advance, she would not have bought another one. The maid actually scolded her when she brought something she had bought herself. Suddenly, the voice of His Highness was heard, stating that she had received the dress he had given her. The emperor is very glad that she dressed it for him. Our heroine thanked the guy for his concern and noted to herself that it seemed they were the only ones in a paired outfit. The young man asked if she could give him the opportunity to accompany the fairy Scotty. Luberia said that the judges might decide wrongly that the man in Della should be chosen today. So if she loses, it will be his fault. Iden countered that if she is really concerned about this, then she should let them know. Then the young man stopped abruptly, looked at her, and said that he believed that she would pass this exam better than anyone else, after which he once again assessed her appearance and said that even the goddess of spring could not compare with her beauty. The girl is the most beautiful in the whole wide world, so he gives her his blessing. One of the girls immediately whispered that the rumor that the emperor was very concerned about his bride was true, while the other muttered how one could behave like that in front of everyone. After a short period of time, it was announced that Princess Armeria had arrived, and she said that they had prepared a banquet for everyone, so let them enjoy tonight. Sulkershan noted to herself, as expected from the main character. She is, as always, incomparable. Just looking at her, she feels joy. Can anyone compare with the previous Della? Noticing that she had started to descend, our heroine ran up to her and said that Armeria had done a great job. This holiday was simply incredible. The princess thanked her and said that she knew this before, but today she really looked like an angel. If it weren't for all these people, she would have hugged her right away. Luberia thought that, if she thought about it, today was the last day she would meet Armeria, and at first she didn't even think about getting closer to her because she was the main character. Well, now that they have to part, she became very sad. Most likely, the princess does not even suspect how good she is with her. After which she whispered in her ear that if anyone was bothering her, then please let them tell her, and she would secretly protect them. Suddenly, the voice of a subordinate was heard, who said that his father had asked him to deliver a letter for Armeria. The princess noted that it was somehow strange why he gave her her father's letter, since this servant should be under the complete control of the seller. Our heroine also felt strange. It felt like she had heard about this before. Suddenly, she felt as if she was struck by an electric shock again, and Luberia asked if she could read this scroll. She thought to herself that he definitely had some significance in the novel. Every time she tried to remember something, her head started to hurt like crazy. Then everything suddenly began to swim before her eyes, and the girl lost consciousness again. The incident in which the dragon awakened in Nicholas was due to Armeria drinking poison and losing consciousness. At this time, the criminal tried to kill the princess by giving her more poison, and then the face of this scoundrel appeared. Our heroine is so stupid. How could she even forget about this important moment? When she came to her senses a little, she said that she was fine. She just felt dizzy for a moment. Suddenly, the emperor appeared, who immediately took her in his arms and said that he would take care of her. The girl was feeling very bad, so something bad could happen. Sulkershan looked at him, and with her last strength muttered for his majesty to put her back on the ground. When asked why she was being stubborn, since she even looked very bad, our heroine pointed her finger at the scroll and said that it was because of the letter. Armeria said that Luberia thought it was a threat, but when she opened it, she saw that it said that her father was proud of her because she had spent that wonderful evening Della. At first, it seemed to the princess that there was nothing unusual about him, but then something dawned on her. The handwriting on this document is so similar to my father's handwriting, but the difference is almost imperceptible. The seal is different. It is a forgery, but it is so perfectly made that if Luberia had not suspected anything, she would not have noticed that there was anything wrong with the letter. Our heroine muttered that the Count was definitely behind this conspiracy. He must have laced the letter with some kind of potion. The Armeria was outraged that some count had the audacity to plot the murder of any princess of the nation and the emperor's bride. Solkershan said that she felt that this time his target was Nicola. Firstly, even after releasing the White Wolf, he still failed to attack the princess. Then, he couldn't send her home, even when he poisoned her during the test. Thirdly, she feels like he will attack someone close to her. If something happens to Armeria during such an event, the blame for it will definitely fall on her security guard. The princess sighed heavily and said that she was so sorry that she had dragged her into all this. Solkarshan exclaimed that there was no need to say that. It was not her fault. And in fact, Luberia had also become the Count's target, only because the Emperor decided to marry her. Isn't that right, His Highness? But even if something happens to her, let her not dare to blame Nicholas for it, and not think about destroying the kingdom of Sarana. The Emperor asked if she wanted him to do nothing, even if his people were to suffer, so that Aiden should sit still like a fool, or what, after which he gave the order to immediately close the ballroom and bring the one who brought the Armeria scroll. They just need to get this thing sorted out before anything happens. When our heroine asked what about Nicholas, the Emperor immediately remembered her words about him being the most handsome man in the entire kingdom, and told her that he did not want to see her now. After some time, when she approached the door, the security informed her that until the investigation was completed, entering and leaving the ballroom was prohibited. This was Caesar's order, so they hoped for understanding. The girl wondered if it was too much. What had she done that would forbid her everything like that? Luberia said that, then go to her place. The guy warned that the Count could be somewhere outside, so please let him move around the palace with guards. But she objected that she did not think that he would do anything to her here. On the way, Solkershan thought that something was clearly wrong here. She wanted to interrogate the Count, why he was targeting her. If only he had appeared in front of her at a convenient moment. Suddenly, she heard a cry that the young man was a stupid servant who had failed to carry out his errand and had come running to him with his tail between his legs when the job had failed. The young man replied that he had simply delivered the letter as he had been ordered, but it seemed that it had been discovered, and now the guards were looking for him. What should he do? The man was indignant. Why should he be held accountable for his mistakes? The servant lamented why everything had turned out this way. He had only carried out the Count's order. Let him please help him. Jehu just kicked him in the stomach and screamed that he had done anything good to ask him for help. To shut his mouth. Our heroine slowly began to become completely enraged, using people, and then getting rid of them like unnecessary trash. Such a person deserves divine punishment, after which she turned her attention to the pebble that lay next to her. And once again, I thought that, indeed, if you commit bad deeds, you will receive divine punishment. Therefore, you can punish him a little, after which she threw a pebble with such force that it left a dent in the wall. Our heroine realized that she had missed a little, so she threw the stone again, which hit the target right on target. The man screamed that his hip was broken. Maybe it was a hired killer. Luberia immediately approached them and said that she wanted to try to help. She was just passing by and heard the scream. Looking at the unconscious man, the girl thought that she didn't want to knock him out. What should she do now? Maybe she should just go and bury him. But no, maybe he is trash. But her conscience will not allow her to do that. First, she needs to bring him to his senses. Suddenly, the voice of the Emperor was heard, asking what she was doing here, since she had said that she would return to her room. Having stopped trying to bring him to his senses, the girl asked what His Highness was doing here. The young man looked at her suspiciously and asked if he was unconscious or something. Solkershan replied that yes, he was. Our heroine thought to herself that she tried to wake him up as quickly as possible, but it seemed she just needed to go bury him. How could she explain everything now? Suddenly, the voice of the mercenary was heard, who said that he did it. The Count refused to pay him, so he got angry and then struck. Milady is not guilty of anything. He will explain everything. But our heroine did not understand why the guy was trying to help her. Then she decided to pretend that she felt ill, So she grabbed her head and exclaimed that she felt dizzy. After some time, she heard a conversation about how someone saw the Count ordering a young servant to poison Milady's water. But Luberia came to her senses and solved the test in just 20 minutes. The girl didn't understand what was going on at all. People had gathered around or what. It's impossible to understand anything with your eyes closed. The young man said that he did this because he needed to feed his family, but seeing how kind-hearted Milady was, he decided to expose the Count's crimes. This is his final decision. They answered him that he must understand that it is impossible to undo the crimes committed. The young man said that he did not expect to be acquitted, but let the Count be punished for all his crimes. When our heroine opened her eyes, she saw the Emperor in front of her, who asked if everything was okay with her. She lost consciousness as soon as the servant confessed everything. He carried her to a quiet place to avoid the commotion. While Luberia was thinking about how she pretended to lose consciousness and eventually fell asleep, since she hadn't been sleeping well lately, the guy asked her if she knew who those people were next to her, if they were the Count's people. Thanks to the servant's confessions, he was arrested. So all that remains is a trial, although it will not take place soon, since the man is not in a condition to survive interrogation. But there is one thing that doesn't add up here. The servant admitted that it was he who hit the Count. The guy blamed him for everything, but he attacked the one he served faithfully and truly. That's somehow strange. But then the young man added that since everything had been resolved, there was no need for my lady to bother her head with it. Our heroine asked what would happen to the servant, because he said that he needed to feed his family. The young man sat down opposite her and asked if she really enjoyed danger so much, but she replied that she did not. Or maybe Milady is overwhelmed with a sense of justice, so much so that she cannot appreciate how dangerous the situation is. But the girl again replied that this is not so. She is taking care of herself. Caesar thought to himself that her words and actions were strikingly different from each other, running towards danger, risking herself for the sake of others, and not expecting anything in return. Why make such sacrifices? How long will this continue? Then he said that no matter how much he thought about it, he still couldn't understand why she didn't want to marry him. It wasn't about the proposal. He wanted to know her true feelings. If she doesn't like the young man so much, he will call off the engagement and marriage. She just has to say so. Our heroine thought that before the only reason was that she did not want to die. But now this is not the case. It cannot be that Caesar loved her. But why then does His Highness have such a sad expression on his face? After which she asked why the Emperor wanted to marry her so much. He said that his goal was to keep her close. Was an engagement or even marriage really necessary for this? She thought to herself that she was indeed influenced by Caesar's actions. But even if the plot had changed, that if he was still cursed, perhaps she was even ready to sacrifice herself for him. But what if the young man decides to commit suicide if she is not there? Will she not regret anything? What if they cannot find a way for both of them to stay alive? The young man said that she could not hide anything from him, since her facial expression revealed all her true emotions. In such situations, she has such a desperate and submissive face, as if she has decided to give up everything that is dear to her, as if death is inevitable. He constantly thinks that sooner or later, Luberia will disappear, so he is very worried. The guy wants her to always, no matter what, be next to him. When our heroine began to pull her cheeks, the young man asked what was happening. The girl answered that she thought it was a dream. But if this is not so, it is very exciting to hear the anxiety in His Highness's voice, why he is worried that she will disappear. His Highness muttered that he did not know. Then Luberia asked if she was to always be near him, did that mean that she should also bathe in front of him? But the young man asked her to stop joking, after which he added that if my lady came closer to him, he would feel better. These words struck our heroine right in the heart. Could it be that the Emperor himself was embarrassed? Then the guy said that he realized why he wanted to marry her. He just wanted her to always be by his side. The girl objected that he had already said this when he proposed to her. The young man replied that the reason had changed. Now he also needed her heart. Would she become his wife? After some time, the princess asked why she was doing this. What happened? When she added that it might be because of yesterday, our heroine immediately exclaimed what Armeria meant by yesterday. The girl explained that, as they thought, the culprit was that man. Yesterday the Count's servant confessed to everything, but the man is now in a terrible state. Luberia replied that she had heard about it, but she thought to herself that she had committed the beating in another country, and if she was caught, that would be the end of her. The princess added that she thought it was difficult for the servant to do this, and whether it was by chance she. Sol Karshan started muttering that she accidentally bumped into him. They almost died because of him. So she thinks that such people deserve punishment. She didn't do it on purpose. It just happened that way. Armeria replied that she did not blame her. The girl had risked everything, no matter what it cost her. Anyone would only praise her. Our heroine replied that there was no need to praise her. She just had a habit of getting angry. Thanks to the servant's confession, there was an official basis for searching the palace, and they found poisonous plants, as Luberia had suspected. It was a sleeping pill mixed with water. When asked how she felt after fainting in the garden, our heroine admitted that it was actually a performance for the emperor, with whom she was there. When the princess asked to clarify what was wrong with the emperor, Luberia did not know what to answer. Then the princess asked if they couldn't discuss it, because she thought that now they were like sisters and could share secrets. Perhaps something awkward happened between them, which is why it is difficult for her to talk about it. After thinking for a bit, our heroine replied that she had received recognition from His Majesty yesterday. Caesar proposed to her, as she said earlier. Their engagement was forced upon them, but now he wants to win her heart. Armeria suddenly exclaimed that this was simply shameless. The emperor had originally seen her as a political tool and was now trying to win her heart. A girl shouldn't give in so easily. She can't show that she likes it and will calmly accept his feelings. Now is the time to pretend that this is not so. Our heroine was delighted that the princess was now teaching her feminine wisdom. Armeria continued that in relationships between a man and a woman, you need to take the initiative. This is an old story about the person who confessed first losing. Luberia is very naive. She has to pretend that she likes it, but at the same time she hates it. Sulkashan didn't understand since when she became the god of love. The princess then asked if she did not want to see the emperor courting her, an image that prayed to win her heart. Our heroine immediately imagined a picture in her head of Caesar asking her to tell him how he could get her, but he was nothing like the character from the book, although it might work. This was indeed good advice, so the girl could not even hide her smile, so she replied that she would definitely try it when they returned back to Skadi. The princess immediately became sad and said that, yes, they were going back to the kingdom soon, so thank you for spending time with her. Luberia replied that she was grateful to her for everything. Let her take care of herself, and she hoped that she would have a child like her. Then the girls decided to hug each other for the last time, since it was unclear when they would see each other again. Armeria thanked her again, because only thanks to her she would be able to live and take care of her child. Even if he says words of gratitude 1,000 times, it will still not be enough, because she will never forget her help. On the way home, the girl thought about how, when she first came here, she didn't even imagine that so much would happen. If you think about it, who ended up being Della? Suddenly, the maid announced that they had arrived. It was a pleasure to be on the road with her. Although she thought that Luberia would go with the emperor, Sulkershan replied that she simply wanted to go with her. After which, our heroine noted that it was somehow too noisy on the street, and there were a lot of people around. What was going on anyway? The maid asked if she didn't know that everyone was actually so happy, because this year our heroine became Della, and the Duke is also trying to ensure that Cindy's father, who set her up, is punished. There was a lot of noise last night about the assassination attempt on Princess Serena. Did Luberia hear that the servant's confession served as indisputable evidence, which led to his arrest? And the reason for the confession was that he was touched by the kindness of the young lady. Therefore, the judges unanimously awarded the title Della to the girl who saved the royal family of Serena. Our heroine noted to herself that to the bizarre epithets such as Golden Fairy and Princess Skadi, now Della will be added, and she is not sure that she will be able to play the main female role. When the maid said that there would be a party in honor of her victory, our heroine replied that she hated them. Marilda said not to say that, because the emperor was organizing it especially for her. The girl mentally asked her for forgiveness, because she was avoiding His Highness. A week has passed since then. The maids dressed Luberia and said that everything was ready. All this time, there was no reaction at all. Every time he talks about wanting to win someone's heart, then he should act. But like Armeria said, She needs to take the next step herself. She had originally planned to keep her distance during the carriage ride and bide her time this week. The maid said that it was time to go to the banquet. The girl thought to herself that she still had plenty of time. She would just start making small hints at the party. When they arrived at the celebration, the father said that Caesar had tried very hard to decorate this banquet. Before he had not been at all interested in such things. It is amazing how much the young man changed after meeting his daughter. Looking around, our heroine noted to herself that everything was decorated with sapphires and other precious stones. Now it is clear who the emperor cares about, but you need to control your facial expressions. When she told the duke that she wanted to leave, he was indignant that she was really going to leave him alone, since she did not want to separate. Sulkershan thought to herself that she was no longer 7 years old. He was too protective of her. Nevertheless, she was pleased with it, because for the first time she was receiving such love. Suddenly, a knight approached her and greeted her. The girl said that today she again felt a distance between them. Ranslot replied that there were some reasons for this. When some guy approached him, the guy introduced him to our heroine and said that he had recently joined their squad. The young man replied that he really wanted to meet her. He was a knight apprentice of the Royal Knights, and his name was Gregory Cepelin. After Luberia asked who was standing next to him, the young man introduced himself and said that his name was Andrew Baldy. This is the youngest vice-captain of the Royal Knights. Despite his status as a student and his young age, he was eager to fight, took the initiative, and boldly defeated enemies. This is how he made a name for himself. Blue Morning Star Scotty. Thanks to his outstanding abilities, he became one of Caesar's confidants, but he looks younger than she imagined. Ranslot said that these two will soon be taking the exam to become a royal knight, and among all the students, they have the best abilities, so he secretly keeps an eye on them. Our heroine was surprised that they had to take an exam for the title. Didn't it automatically count after the conquest in the novel? Then it dawned on her that since the war hadn't started yet, they couldn't do it yet. One of them asked why she had come without the emperor's escort. Luberia noted to herself what an unexpected question. Who would have thought that Caesar's sudden business trip would cause so much work to accumulate? So she replied that he had urgent matters. Andrew suddenly said that he had left his bride alone at the ball. A guy would never do that. And then asked if she would do him the honor of dancing with him. The other two were taken aback by such impudence that he allowed himself to do this with the emperor's bride. Our heroine laughed and asked for forgiveness for this. Since this was the first time she had been invited to dance in this way, he was very brave. Because of Caesar, no one usually invites her. The young man said that there seems to be no law that prohibits inviting a woman who has a fiancé. Sulkershan noted to herself that she was a little worried about Aidan, but it would be a shame to leave a banquet where she is the main character and not dance at least once. Therefore she agreed, but said that they might have problems if the emperor found out about it. During the dance, the girl noted that he was very nervous, but nevertheless very attentive. Come to think of it, she didn't get to enjoy the evening in the East either, because she was busy solving the case. But it was a chance to dance with Caesar, after which she decided that she didn't need to think about him again. She needed to concentrate on this dance. At the end, the guy bowed and thanked her for giving him unforgettable memories. The girl replied that she thanked him too, because she had a great time. Suddenly, the young man asked hesitantly if he could meet her again. Our heroine replied that, of course, they would definitely meet again. But she thought to herself that this was just an ordinary phrase. After some time, returning to his room, Luberia thought about how, no matter how busy he was, he should at least attend the ball for a minute. Then she couldn't stand it any longer and screamed out loud that this was all very unfair. Suddenly, the voice of the emperor was heard, asking what exactly was unfair. As she asked, he entered after knocking. Objecting that she had not heard anything at all, the girl added that he had said that he would not come to the party because of work, so why did he come here? Caesar explained that he had returned too late. The bride was dancing so happily with another man that she didn't even notice him. Our heroine was surprised that he was at the banquet at all. But why didn't he approach her? What is this strange expression on his face? Is His Highness jealous? So she asked out loud the question that was bothering her. But the guy objected that it was impossible. Luberia, of course, didn't believe him, so she laughed and said that it was hard to believe, but he really was jealous. Then she asked whether he had been very busy up until that moment, since he had never even visited her. The emperor answered that he had. Sulker Khan objected that he had been so busy that he could not even find a little time to come to her. His Highness asked if she really wanted to see him. He missed his dear very much. The girl said that she didn't think that was something to say to her fiancé, did she? The young man objected that this was the word she had said herself, and our heroine noted to herself that he had an excellent memory, after which she said that she was actually very upset, because they said that it was a holiday for her, but he didn't even come. Idan replied that he was very sorry, and in his defense, he would say that the emperor could not take a vacation for personal reasons, so he ran away from the office without even realizing it, although he understood that it was wrong, but he simply could not bear it. His Highness really wanted to see his bride. The girl noted to herself that she felt awkward. Caesar added that he would definitely protect her now, so could you please tell him how he could calm her mind so that she would not get upset? Our heroine abruptly pushed him away from her and said that he had gotten too close to her. Coming out onto the balcony, the guy said that it was time for him to go. It was impolite to sit up late in the bride's bedroom. It was okay if she visited him, too. Sulker Khan asked what he was doing. Was he really going to jump out of the window? The young man replied that yes, because he came here secretly, after which His Highness wished our heroine pleasant dreams and disappeared. As the girl watched him go, she thought to herself that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. He came to her secretly because he was bored. Caesar likes her very much. The next day, the girl said that she thought that we could end it here, since today was the knight's examination tournament. Sitting on the podium, Luberia noted that it hadn't even started yet, but quite a lot of people had gathered. And these are apparently knight apprentices who are about to take the exam. Everyone has such a serious expression on their faces that she is even a little nervous. Suddenly, she heard one of the men saying that he had been rated too generously, but in his opinion, the guy was still too young. Even if he could advance, it would only be to the initial stage. The other replied that it was obvious that he would be the winner, but the other only laughed and said that the young man was just a useless boy. The girl was outraged by this. They try so hard and worry so much that she simply can't stand it. So she asked what's going on here. Are they really betting on potential knights? The men immediately exclaimed that this was just a misunderstanding, a simple prank. But Luberia asked if they could prove it, and if not, she wanted to take part in the bet. The main winner will be Andrew Baldy. She is betting her 3 months' salary on him. The men said that his family lives in the province. They say that their territory is small, is currently experiencing financial difficulties. Could a child from such a family normally learn fencing? When asked if she was okay with it, the girl replied that it was a woman's instinct, but she noted to herself that Ranslot said that he was watching them without their knowledge. The boys couldn't believe that an ordinary village boy had won the heart of their fairy. It was just hard to admit. Others said that Andrew was a very brave man. If it were him, he would never have invited the emperor's bride to dance. He simply could not do it because of moral principles. This young man is clearly very dangerous, so we need to take a very close look at him. The girl noted to herself that the knight's exam was usually conducted by Ranslot, but His Majesty said that he would personally review this exam. Was he really trying to deal with a guy who was targeting Luberia? Then she realized that these were very stupid thoughts. The emperor could not be such a zealot. Meanwhile, Caesar was just bursting with anger, and he asked if the guy would also participate. He thought to himself how this young man dared to invite his bride to dance. He danced with her without any fear at all, and even received her sweet support, even if he screwed up and came back with his shoulders down. Meanwhile, the man noted to himself that something was clearly wrong here. Should an ordinary village boy have such a look? After this, it was announced that sparring could begin, so the young men got down to business. Watching Caesar's reaction, Ranslot asked what was going on, as he had always left the examination for the selection of the king's knights entirely to him. The emperor reluctantly came to the knighting ceremony, asking why he needed it, but Idan objected that this was not so. "It seems the knight was mistaken," the boy exclaimed. "Is he not abusing his power too much?" The emperor said that as the exam approached, a rough selection of successful candidates was made towards the end. The young man replied that, yes, there were a couple of good ones this time. These are the sons of Viscount Shepelin and a young man named Andrew, son of Baron Baldy. They were good guys, So he brought them here. It seemed to him that they were doing well. And he was right, because they have talent. These guys are talented, they are still young, so he expects even more from them. The knight thought to himself that their dance was somehow strange, so he reported the incident at the ball for no reason. After which he added that, if you think about it, Solkershan also came to this exam, which infuriated the emperor. Caesar hissed that he believed that the knight's training had become much weaker than before. Ranslot replied that His Majesty himself had stated that the bride's training had to be adapted to her physical strength. Does he really want to go back on his words? Let him just look at everything objectively. Andrew can grow even more. Fencing, physical strength, and even improvisation. Everything is perfect. His Highness replied that, at best, it was simply a matter of time. And the knight also stated that the emperor was behaving in such a way because of what happened on the floor. Caesar hissed, did he really think so? What should he do, in his opinion? Maybe just kill Baldy? The knight muttered that it was a joke. Then he grabbed his head and thought that he was behaving so childishly. The emperor really was different from what he had been before. And the reason for his such behavior is none other than Luberia Solkershan. After some time, on the training ground of the royal palace, our heroine received her profit. The girl happily announced that she was planning to spend the money at a party to be held in honor of the winner. The guys were taken aback by the fact that she was going to come to the celebration. Noticing their reaction, Luberia asked if it would be okay if she came. The knights did not know what to answer her, because they could not say that the emperor had threatened him. The lecture was about the fact that discipline had become weak, no matter how much they thought about it. Andrew, who won the exam, was to blame for everything, so they answered that it would be better to ask the captain. The girl thought to herself that she thought she was getting a little closer to the knights, but, well, she'll have to ask the leader directly. Now that she thinks about it, she feels like he was jealous of the guy she danced with at the ball, so now he keeps saying he's busy and doesn't come to her to ask if she made a mistake. Now the girl will also do whatever she wants. If he likes her, wouldn't it be worth paying attention to her every day? Suddenly, Andrew's voice was heard, saying that he was glad to see her. In the background, Ranslot was shouting that he had told him that he was not allowed to approach her. Our heroine replied that it was, of course, late, but she congratulated him on passing the exam. Then she asked the captain if she could attend today's party. The guy wondered if the emperor would even allow this. Therefore, he replied that it would be better to ask Caesar about this. The girl objected that she was also a member of the Order of Knights, so surely this was not taken into account. Then something dawned on her, and she asked to clarify whether His Highness had forbidden it. Ranslot immediately objected that this was not so. But Luberia didn't believe him, so she said that she knew that she didn't fit in well with the knights. They probably weren't comfortable. Then she should not attend such a public event, since she does not deserve it. The guy immediately exclaimed that this is not so, the girl can attend it. When the captain left, our heroine asked if she could give him some advice. The guy replied that he didn't mind. During the walk, the young man noted that if she was the emperor's personal bodyguard, then he clearly did this in order to keep Luberia close to him. After thinking for a bit, our heroine replied that, in fact, she wanted this herself. Andrew exhaled and said that it was wonderful, because from now on he would be able to see her every day.